remember how I slept in your chest. I want to forget it, take a breath and leave you away, away. But it's not that easy, 'cause you make me miss you again, again. If you want, just come. If you want, just come. Don't leave me again, leave me again. If you want, just come. If you want, just come. Don't leave me again, leave me again.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight.
Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in that wonderful time color rainbow in between, welcome to tonight's coverage of the Titan Esports Divinity League. I am What's Your Birdie, and joining me tonight is my beloved colorcaster and co-host, Ansi. How you doing tonight, Ansi?
Hello, hello. I'm doing quite well myself, Brady. I'm so happy to be here. Sorry I wasn't able to catch this last week, but here we are. Divinity, we're gonna get Literal Monkeys versus UVG. This is gonna be an interesting one to start. So both of these teams start off the season a little bit rocky, right? 0-1, but it's the very beginning of the season. If one game was what decided your entire placement for the split, there would be a lot of teams in trouble right now, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have to see how things really do pan out. I'm particularly interested to see how UVG's drafting goes, because the biggest question I had looking at these players is who's playing what? Because not every player is going to be playing on what seems like their main role as far as solo queue goes.
Yeah, that can sometimes be a draft advantage. You can pick some obscure off-meta picks. You can say, like, hey, I've got a top laner who's playing support. We're going to bring out something like a Set, like a Pantheon. We're going to have them play a little bit more of a bruiser. If you have a mid laner down there, you can say, okay, we're going to play something wacky, like a Zoe or throw a Vel'Koz down there. You know, play these creative off-meta picks that you sometimes don't have as much practice against in solo queue or in these scrim environments. But they are going up against literal monkeys who are a roster full of names that people know in these leagues. You have Notorious TLP, you have Singular Bread, you have Pink Penguin, these players that are well known throughout these gold platinum rosters, and these players are known for a reason. They're known for being good, and even coming off of a loss, you got to be afraid of them coming into this matchup.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a look at, not just their history and their champions, there's just a lot more cohesion going on here as far as just looking at it from an outside perspective, right? You pop onto that OPGG and you say like, oh, well, I know this player is going to be playing this role. Like, we know Ball Slap's going to be taken up in the mid lane. We know Yomi's going to be on AD carry. Where else would they be? Now, if you go ahead onto the other side, onto UVG, I don't know who's taking mid lane between No Name and BBL Drizzy. We saw a little bit different things between these players before, but that's the beauty of having players who play multiple roles, right? You're not locked into just playing a single thing. You could just role swap mid-set even, if you really choose to. So there's a lot of variability in there.
There have been a couple of teams that I've casted before where their mid laner and top laner have been flexible between the two roles. I think Nuthies is a player who's especially known for this, and just a person who can play top lane when he needs to, but if he wants to jump down into mid lane, if it's a better matchup for whatever champion they lock in there, happy to just play that one out. But for now, we are talking about UVG and we are talking about literal monkeys. So everything else out the window. Last week out the window. Just coming into this matchup, I think these players just have to shake themselves off. Rough week one, doesn't matter. You're coming into this matchup fresh and ready to play.
Yeah, like we said, one game is not what decides your entire season, even 2 games, right? So the biggest question is who is going to be taking game number 1, because while it might not decide your whole season, it definitely decides the momentum for the first set, right? So as we get into the swing of things, I kind of want to talk about what are some of the stronger champions that we're likely going to be seeing on this patch. I've been seeing a lot of the Caitlyn, the Ashe, right? Some of these AD carries that have so much range and so much either utility or just flat out damage that have seen so much play in the bot lane lately.
Yeah, there are a couple of champions that I've been fairly impressed by over the course of this early split as the Pro League start to jump back up. We've seen a little bit of the LPL. The LEC got its start earlier today. I've been really impressed by Caitlyn and Jinx, I think, especially in the bottom lane. The crit marksmen have been feasting in these most recent patches. The change to IE being so nice for them. And even with it getting tagged down a little bit, taking from 50% crit bonus to 40%, it's still an 80 attack damage item. It's still pretty damn good. So on champions like that, I think we're expecting to just see them thrive. There have been a couple of champions that I haven't been super impressed by, though. I know Jhin is a champion who was being really hyped up coming into this split and coming into being like, crit items are coming back. You don't have to build lethality anymore. You can be a lane aggressive bully. I just haven't been impressed when you compare him to the likes of Jinx, the likes of Ashe, the likes of Caitlyn. It just feels like these champions do his job better than he can.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got a champion who's sitting there and it's like, yeah, I output utility out the wazoo. Yes, when I do auto attack, it hurts real bad. And on the other side, you have champions that are fully indexed into, hey, I just have utility, or hey, I just hit really, really hard. Jhin is one of those champions that looks really good on paper, but kind of gets edged out when you actually get into the swing of things. But speaking of other champions that we might be looking into, if you look at the side of Ultraviolet Gaming, I mean, you have some very anticipated champions like the Kale, for example. If
Yeah.
we see a Kale picked up in this set for Ultraviolet Gaming, Literal Monkeys have absolutely failed when it comes to their research, right? They're the biggest thing when it comes to competitive play is you do not let one tricks have their champions. I don't
Yep.
care if someone is truly a one trick or simply plays a lot of a single champion. Don't let them have it. Don't give them a comfort pick. If they're still playing it in this meta, chances are they're still comfortable on it.
Yeah, I think this is something we were talking about a little bit off broadcast. I like to dub it the APA effect because we've seen it happen in the NALCS all the time. Players are like, yeah, I can ego check APA. I can handle him in lane. Give him ASOL. Give him Ziggs. Let him have these champions that he's really good at, and then are just shocked Pikachu face when he shows up and plays really well on the champion that he's known for playing really well on.
Surprise, surprise. I mean, speaking of which, I would also be surprised if we did see an Aurelion Soul today, right? There's a lot of picks that I think teams should be able to pick up on, and we should not be seeing once we get into the swing of things. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to see whether or not these teams are picking for what is it that they're comfortable for or what is it that their opponents are comfortable for. Because there's a lot of different ways how to approach these drafts, and you could be just taking away power picks, picking what is strong on the patch, or just going with plain old comfort. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, comfort's not a bad thing to start with.
Yeah, I think especially in these leagues that are, let's be fair and call it any league that isn't literally tier 1 play. Like if you're in the LCK, the LCS, maybe you only pick towards the meta and maybe you like sort of turn your comfort back a little bit. But even up there are people like APA who will pick these champions that they're much more comfortable on and play towards it instead. So I think in leagues, especially like this, play towards what you know, play towards your comfort, play towards the styles and the execution that you can actually manage to pull off as we're finally going to get started here in the draft for game number 1.
Yeah, and game number 1, okay.
Yeah,
so
not surprising.
we're already seeing the Karthus taken off the brand as well. So I'm guessing that's going to be likely towards the jungle when it comes to the brand, just because, I mean, that's what we've seen brand a lot of lately. It's not like the champion can't be there, though. But, all right. So these teams definitely have been looking at the OPGGs, thankfully, right? So
They know the meta.
we got the Karthus, we got the Caitlyn. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Nefiri banned somewhere down the line, but in the meantime,
maybe as a
should
ban
be
thrown
interesting.
towards Ball Slap just in case, but it looks like UVG is actually pretty comfortable just taking out more of these bottom lane picks. The Jinx and the Caitlyn we were talking about earlier, strong meta 80 carries that are just really damn good right now. You were mentioning earlier, you were hoping to see a Kale banned away. I see a KA, but that's not a Kale, that's a Kane. So if UVG wants it, it's theirs for the taking.
yeah, it is, but instead going to be opting for the Nocturne, which honestly, I don't hate it. Nocturne, fairly solid pick, especially in competitive play, right? It's very easy to tell what your win condition is, right? You hit level 6, you hit R, congratulations! You get to pick someone who doesn't get to play the game, and it's really hard for their team to follow up on it, while your team just gets to play however it is that they want, right? In the meantime, we're going to be getting some Kai'Sa here, and Kai'Sa definitely far from bad, as Udyr also going to get picked up.
Okay.
Could go into the top lane, could go into the jungle. I'd be a little bit surprised to see that in just raw jungle, though.
Yeah, I think Udyr has been really thriving in the top lane. There's been a, what I'll call a unique style of build for him recently. I was casting over in Risen yesterday, and I saw a Tiger Stance Max Udyr top lane with Triforce and Ravenous Hydra. It won really well. There it is, yeah, there it is. That Kale is going to be locked in. So I know you were calling out immediately a failure in drafting here from the Monkeys. So I think this is now a test of what do you have in your pocket to counter the Kale, as that's a Renekton lock-in, which actually tells me that the Udyr might be sitting in the jungle instead.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. We could also be seeing some crazy blind Renekton mid, but I'd be very surprised to see something like that. It's very likely that we are going to be seeing the Renekton versus the Kale here. And the big thing about the Renekton pickup is that with Udyr in the jungle, that means that Kale and Nocturne aren't going to have the 2v2 prowess, right?
Yeah.
So a large part of that early game is making sure that this Kale isn't going to be getting dove, because once Kale's behind, it could be a long time until she gets back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and Nocturne's not the best champion at denying some of those early dives and making sure to keep your laner safe. Because like you said, Nocturne wants to scale up, wants to farm to 6, wants to get that first impactful ulti. So it's really going to be on Genghis Khan to be quick on the farming, be quick on your clears, and maybe just getting some wards down for your kill to make sure that they can leave if they have to. But in the 2v2 versus Renekton and Udyr, I'm not sure you want to take that pre-level 6.
Yeah, especially when you look at the rest of Literal Monkey's team, they've got a death ball composition and a half. Meanwhile, Ultraviolet Gaming, right now, it has a little bit of an identity crisis, right? With the Nico. Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to be a Ziggs Braum
Ziggs bottom lane, yeah.
Which...
I don't know how I feel about it pairing with the Braum. Braum is normally much happier with just a standard AD carry, but it's a good defensive pick into the Kai'Sa, and the Nautilus doesn't super happy about playing versus a Braum, so in a vacuum, I get it. Pairing it with the Ziggs, I think it's a little questionable.
Yeah, I mean, Ziggs as an AD, as, you know, a bot lane AP carry is something that we've seen time and time again, but usually it's paired with other champions that have much more consistent lockdown, like the Leona, for example, like the Nautilus, right? Champions that can make sure that Ziggs can land those skill shots immediately, right? A champion like Braum that requires you to get those autos off, to really get into the swing of things, doesn't quite pair as well with the Ziggs, but it's far from unworkable. So the biggest question is, how comfortable are these teams with making this work? So right now, Ultraviolet Gaming have a very good composition, assuming they can get ahead, right? If you have a Nocturne diving into the backline, completely invincible, and a Nico able to just walk in with the ultimate while, you know, no one can see anything, that's a great combo, right?
Yeah.
But Literal Monkeys have a good composition regardless of how far ahead or behind they are. It's a death ball, right? Anyone doing fine in a death ball composition means the whole death ball composition is rolling.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Nocturne in this early game, because looking at the Monkeys composition, you have lane bullies, you have lane dominant champions that are going to be playing to get aggressive, to win their lane, to look to push advantages. And when you're playing Nocturne with a couple of losing lanes, 2 or 3, depending on how we see the Nico versus the Blanc matchup going on, sometimes sitting in your jungle and just farming up is going to be a little risky. You have an Udyr who's going to be running around, a LeBlanc who can even roam out of mid and start to bully you off of your camps. So we'll have to see how this ends up actually working out for them. If Genghis Khan can get to level 6, can start have those impactful ultis, I think the first ulti especially is one we should be keeping our eyes out for. But if they can make it to that point, that's fantastic. As long as they're not behind, I think they're doing good. But if they get behind, if this Nocturne gets bullied off the camps, if we see Udyr hitting level 6 first, I think it spells trouble for this UVG composition.
Yeah, I mean, Ultraviolet Gaming definitely have a rough early game to go with. We're going to have to see how things actually work out on the Rift. We can talk numbers, we can talk what's good on paper as much as we want, but in the end, it does come down to execution.
Yeah. Speaking of execution, I did get to have a slight chat with the coach of UVG, Texture Ace, before the match. Gave me a little bit of insight into what their plan was coming into this pick ban. And a lot of their focus, I think, initially was going to be on this bottom lane, though. I'm not sure they were expecting the Kayle to actually be left up. So I'm not sure what sort of draft plan changes they're going to have coming into the rest of the series if the Kayle is left up again.
Yeah, honestly, the Kayle being left up, I don't think necessarily pivots the draft too much, because if you look in this bot lane, right, while the Ziggs Braum isn't necessarily a combo that we see together too much, Braum works particularly decently into the Kai'Sa, into the Nautilus, champs that are traditionally relatively low range, that kind of have to get right on in there in order to make things happen. And, you know, Ziggs is very likely going to have that priority into Kai'Sa for absolutely forever. Meanwhile, we're just going to be getting no leashes to the junglers. I honestly like this a lot. I really hate when teams force the laners to leash the jungler, because so many junglers nowadays are going to do just fine without that.
TLP already trying to take advantage of the weak level 1 that Iterumi is going to have on this Kayle, though. Trading back actually pretty effectively on the Kayle. That press the attack, putting in some early work. TLP actually in trouble, forced to lose the flash level 1 against the Kayle defensively. What am I looking at?
I mean, that's the biggest thing about fighting Kayle, right? So many people look at Kayle and be like, oh, she's weak early game. That means I can fight her at level 1, right? Well, speaking of level 1, we're going into the level 2 here, and nothing too crazy in the bot lane just yet, but
Ooh,
oh man.
Flash out of BBL Jersey. Something about this bottom lane that I wanted to mention, as TLP is forced to lose that teleport to get back up here to top lane. It's not a teleport on the Ziggs from Swamplight like I was expecting. It is going to be the barrier on this Ziggs alongside the First Strike, which to me at least says that Swamplight and BBL might be looking to trade a little bit more than your average Ziggs lane might be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these lanes, and it's not unlikely that the only lane that really holds on to a ton of priority is that bot lane, right? Because when it comes to the mid lane, it's LeBlanc, right? She's so good at setting up ganks, especially for a champion like Udyr, right? You know, if she lands one of those ethereal chains, Udyr can just walk in, and all of a sudden you have a terrifying 2v2 that you have to deal with. Top lane, well, as we mentioned before, really dang hard to 2v2 those two, but oh man,
Yeah,
so much 2v2ing down here.
But yeah, I expected the Kai'Sa Nautilus lane to be the aggressors in this lane, to be playing forward and looking for trades like this, as Acerumi might be in trouble here, as TLP's gonna dash forward, get that stun, getting pretty low, but not low enough. It's gonna be First Blood going over to Singular Bread on the Udyr. Now on the bottom side, BBL Jersey actually getting a fairly low, does have the Unbreakable, so we'll be able to walk away. But despite the aggression from the Kayle on the top side, it is First Blood going to Monkeys.
Yeah, that's a little bit of that extra cockiness from playing some of your favorite champions up in that top lane. I mean, we know that she definitely had a huge lead for a long time. Honestly, likely still has the gold lead in this top lane. Look at that CS differential between the Kayle and the Renekton. But that's the thing about competitive play, right? You're not playing a 1v1. Anytime that you're in a good position, somehow there's the enemy team.
Speaking of not being in a good position in a 1v1, No Name might now be the one in trouble. Is forced to flash away, but Ball Slap does have the flash follow up and is going to pick that up off of a nice roam from Pink Penguin.
Yeah, No Name and Aeternumi, both of them, you know, in a great position as far as 1v1 is concerned, and all of a sudden, you know, Literal Monkey's teammates come on in, play the spoiler, and 2v2, or 2v1, more like, really not going to be as fun to deal with.
Yeah, not the best start for UVG that we were hoping for, but it is the early game. It's only about 600 gold differential, but like we were talking about, that CS differential on the top side coming out heavily in Aeternumi's favor. About 22 CS currently, and is just going to continue to make the life of this Renekton very difficult. So I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Singular Red try and make another play up here on the top side again before the Kayle hits level 6. I spoke too soon. Too late.
Yeah, a little too late for that one. Now with Kayle at level 6, we're going to be seeing a lot of bullying onto this Renekton, especially because it's going to be a pretty dang long time until Renekton hits that level 6. Mid lane, on the other hand, definitely a lot more swingy. So Nocturne has been farming up. You know, she's just going to continue to go towards that level 6 path. The moment that we see that first ultimate on the deck is when we're going to see whether or not this Nocturne can really make a difference in this game.
Yeah, I think thankfully for UVG, for the most part, there hasn't been a lot of, I'll say, early game aggression towards the jungle at the very least. We have seen Singular Bread and Pink Penguin get on the map and make some plays happen, but there hasn't been any sort of invades from lane leads because there hasn't been that many lane leads. It has been in favor of the UVG solo laners, which I think coming into this draft, I was certainly not expecting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at these players, right, they're playing some things that they're comfortable with, but usually the 1v1 ends up being a lot... Hold
Gonna
on.
be forced to use that double Phoenix stance to try and get away, and now TLP is gonna rotate in. Genghis Khan, I think, just a little bit too low. She doesn't want to continue making that trade happen, so both junglers will be able to walk away as...
What a hook!
What a hook landing in the bottom lane. I don't know if they want to continue that follow-up, if Swamplight is just gonna get that satchel charge, get herself out of there, but for now it is just gonna be stepping back to... waiting for that hook to land, but stepping back to isolation.
Yeah, I mean, Pink Penguin has been landing some pretty dang incredible hooks here. And this is one of those lanes that you really anticipate from UVG to be the singular lane with lots of priority because, you know, it's Ziggs into a low range AD carry, so you're likely going to have a lot of power with that. But Instead, we're seeing the solo lanes really the ones pushing out the lanes, giving the priority over to their junglers here. And in that bot lane, Pink Penguin's engages honestly led to a very solid amount of strength for these two.
Itsunumi stepping up a little bit too far forward here. Does have that flash available, just trying to get to a spot in the wall where they can get out. No flash to follow from TLP. Still level 5 on the Renekton, so no Dominus available to try and chase for a kill. Which means that Itsunumi will be able to survive today.
Yeah, good stuff to Eternumi. I mean, Kale going to be able to get those rank 2 boots should allow her to just walk on out of a lot of openings. But just remember, you got to watch that Renekton flash because the flash stun could lead into so much damage here. I mean, stun on slows is the name of the game when it comes to that 2v1 gank up in that top lane. Meanwhile, bot lane, so much trading.
Yeah, Pink Penguin just trying to get these hooks in. They know that they have the early aggressive lane. They know what they're trying to play for, but it's just the disengage from Ziggs Braum. We were questioning it a little bit in the draft, saying like, hey, maybe Braum doesn't want to pair up super well with the Ziggs. It's not, you know, the biggest lane combo as... Here's that first paranoia off the cuff. It's immediately going to burn the killer instinct from Kaisa, but now they're going to turn back onto the 2 members of Literal Monkeys. But as BBL Drizzy is the first target to go down. Next will fall be Genghis Khan. Flash forward from Pink Penguin to find the hook onto Swamplight, who's going to be forced to use their flash. Yomi's going to flash forward to try and get the extra bit of damage in there. Barrier pop from Swamplight to try and keep this up alive, but it's just not enough. It's a double kill for Singular Bread.
A double kill just leading straight into that dragon as well, for sure. I mean, that was an incredible counter gank there coming out for Literal Monkeys. I mean, this team's called Literal Monkeys, but they are playing like a well-oiled machine. They're just always in the right spot at the right time to cover for one another here. And meanwhile, you know, once again, that mid lane has so much power, you know, in these solo lanes for these players, but the bot lane is where we're seeing a lot more of the strength come through for Literal Monkeys here. I think Notorious might be dead.
He not going to be able to die just yet. Still holding onto that flash, so I think just had enough C for now. But yeah, the solo lanes of Monkeys are starting to get themselves a little bit back into the game. The CS lead still falling in the top lane for TLP, but managing to make some decent trade backs. We'll be able to teleport back and pick up the most of this wave. But I think in the mid lane, especially, Ball Slap has managed, despite the CS deficit, to be feeling in a pretty comfortable spot as the LeBlanc.
Yeah, I mean, 67 CS, a kill on LeBlanc, definitely going to be feeling pretty dang nice here. Meanwhile, just gonna have to take a quick look at what we missed last time. So, we got the ulti in from the Nocturne. It's looking good, but a beautiful killer instinct just barely out of range from Kaisa means that this depth charge that hits both of the frontliners turns into so much extra damage. You know, Kaisa's just allowed to free hit again and again, and the flash forward into the hook from Pink Penguin just fully guarantees the death from Swamplight. Barrier does not do a thing there, and a double kill to the dragon feels so dang good. 5 kills to nothing is a great starting point.
Yeah, just about 2,000 gold in favor of the Monkeys. And again, this is something we were talking about in the drafting phase. The fact that the Monkeys are full of players that have been around the scene before. They've been around the block. They know what's going on. So seeing them making these more coordinated plays and seeing them be right on top of each other with what plays are happening, it's what you expect to see from them. And I think anything less would be disappointing as the hook's going to land on the Genghis Khan. They're going to pop that Paranoia just to make sure that there's no threat. Look for a re-engage here. BBL Drizzy's got the Glacial Fisher. The Pop Blossom will only be able to find 2. It's Genghis Khan being the first to fall. BBL Drizzy trying to trade back, trying to get something done. Ball Slap getting super low. The Ignite taking away, but Singular Bread finding the kill. Ball Slap will survive. TLP and Eternumi are going to rotate in, but now it's Eternumi stuck in a 1 versus 4. The Divine Intervention is going to keep her alive for a little bit longer, but they won't be able to find a trade on a Ball Slap who survives with a sliver of HP, and Monkeys continue their map domination.
Ball Slap just barely getting out of there with the tiniest bit of health left, and I cannot believe that that went as incredibly for the Monkeys' favor as it did, right? And honestly, huge shout outs to Pink Penguin. right at the beginning of that fight, it was looking like the one moment for Ultraviolet Gaming to really get a way back into things, and all of a sudden, depth charge onto No Name, it just denying the possibility of the Pop Blossom follow-up on that Paranoia was so unbelievably impactful. That's the one thing that kept the perfect game dream alive, and this is far from just we're winning now, and this is into the we could set a record with this one for the Monkeys.
Penguin, look for another engage on the bottom side here. They're going to force Swamp Blade again to use that satchel charge just for disengaging. Now that Kaisa has access to that Kraken Slayer, that first item completed for this 80 carry. I was about to say the trees are going to start going in her favor a little bit more, but not if you're tanking bombs on the back half, as it looks like Swamp Blade still happy to throw some satchel charges their way.
Oh yeah, it's not like this bot lane's not doing damage. I mean, Zig's always going to be able to output so much damage with those bombs. You got to be dodging each one of those, and meanwhile, No Name trying to get a little bit of damage in here against that LeBlanc, but I mean, nothing too crazy going on right now. Just going to be a little bit of a lull stay as Aeternumi. She's just going to continue to bully this Renekton. Just a rough position to find yourself in, but when the rest of the map's going as well as it is, I'm pretty sure TLP does not mind.
Yeah, I think this is one of those times where you just have to say, hey, we ganked the Kayle early, we got a slight lead in our favor. The team is winning hard across the map as TLP actually looking for an aggressive trade there. Gets the little decimate there to get some extra healing off. Hook doesn't land. Every time I see a Nautilus hook get thrown out, my breath just catches. I'm a support player. I've started banning Nautilus pretty much permanently in all my games because this champion is so dang easy and so, I think, freelo, honestly. It's so easy to pilot and it's so good to just like get these hooks off in these situations. You're gonna TLP can lose a little bit more HP. Playing some dangerous games, but with those plated steel caps in inventory, I think it's feeling healthy enough to continue to play aggressively.
Yeah, while I'm definitely inclined to agree with you, I will also say Pink Penguin has been playing this phenomenally. Look at this!
Yeah, the engage onto the backline though with that Paranoia, the barrier for Kaisa and the Killer Instinct to try and keep her safe. The damage just not there for Genghis Khan. She can't find the damage onto the Kaisa. Baby El Drizzy goes down as well. It's 2 kills over to the Kaisa in the bottom side. In the meantime, Pop Blossom in the mid lane. No Name looking for the outplay in the 1v1.
No Name going to be able to get that Pop Blossom off and deny the perfect game. Ultraviolet Gaming finally on the board. So many of these plays with the tiniest margins of error, and now finally things are looking up for them. Aeternumi has a kill opportunity here.
From TLP, but the divine intervention from Kayle means you cannot find that kill, TLP. It's Kayle on the board as well.
Rule number 1 about drafting, do not let one tricks have their champions, right? Aeternumi's tag at the end is literally Kayle. There's a reason for it. She likes this champion. But
yeah,
I mean,
exactly why in this game, up about 40-35 CS in their favor, and despite all the jungle pressure that has come through, despite all the aggression coming into this top lane, Aeternumi still finding leads, is still able to maintain their ability and their presence in this game.
Yeah, and 2 kills on the board, definitely going to feel good, but we have to calm down a bit. We have to say, all right, well, so what do those kills really mean? So for Kayle, it doesn't actually mean too much, right? Aeternumi has been in a very good position in this top side for a while. Bot lane, always trading. Always trading.
Yeah. Until I start seeing some lower health bars, I'm not even gonna bother calling out hooks anymore.
But as I was saying, right, Aeternumi getting that kill honestly doesn't mean too much. She was already doing really well in the laning phase against TLP. Meanwhile, in that mid lane, that one shutdown honestly could change a lot about the dynamic of this laning phase here, right? You know, top lane going even worse for the Nectans, definitely a welcoming sign, but it's not like Aeternumi wasn't already doing really well.
Yeah, I think for UVG, it means you have a more consistently clear carry that you can play through. You know that your kill is going to be strong. Already level 12 here at 16 minutes, so the time is ticking down on that mark to level 16. Because he might get a scuffle here on this Rift Herald. Singular Red is going to come over. This fight's going to go through over to Genghis Khan. But now the Uter's just going to start rotating in. That Paranoia's in, but it's just for a little bit of darkness on top of the play. It's Jungle traded for top lane so far. Singular Red will be the next to fall as Ancient Nuba's going to find that shutdown gold. The Kale's the carry. The Kale's getting the money. Ball Slap is here. The health bars are so low for the members of UVG. PBL Drizzy will fall, but it's again a trade. The gold going over to Kale. It's exactly what UVG wants to see.
Yeah, and another
Ball Slap found isolated. No Name once again picking out their lane opponent.
Yeah, and I was saying earlier, right, that Aeternuma getting that early kill onto TLP does not mean all that much. Now getting 2 more kills and getting a team fight win means so much more, right? All of a sudden, Aeternuma and No Name, both of the solo laners sitting here with a positive KDA after a rough start. So this all begins where you see so many AoE ultimates going off. You got the Pop Blossom, you got the Paranoia, just making it so hard for Little Monkeys to follow up. Meanwhile, Aeternuma just getting the free hit. We got the flashes in, we got the damage. Pink Penguin just gets the re-engage, knocks everyone up, and BBL Drizzy eventually going to be going down to the Ignite. But one support going down when you have essentially every Fed member of Literal Monkeys going down is a huge difference.
Pink Penguin maybe in trouble here in the mid lane. Does have that hook shot to get themselves out of the way. I'm really surprised that Ball Slap is flashing over the wall in that situation to look for the kill. That felt very greedy at the end of what was already a not great play for the Monkeys. You lose the Rift Herald, you lose a lot of kills, you get the Kale accelerated. Hey, speaking of this, Kale, Aeternuma again is the target of the aggression here, trying to just get the damage down onto TLP, but that Sun combo is going to come through. Point and click CC, just a little bit too good. The burst comes through, and Singular Bread will find their 6th kill of the game.
Yeah, I mean, look at that Black Cleaver doing so much work there. Might have been invincible for a bit, but the moment that ultimate falls off, Aeternuma is so unbelievably squishy. Just pops to that Udyr Renekton combo. Meanwhile, in this mid lane, No Name now taken on the 1v2s against the bot lane of Literal Monkeys here. Should be fine as far as clearing the minions out is concerned here. Meanwhile, the bot lane, I do believe we're going to likely get that full-on swap, right?
Yeah, I think the Ziggs is just happy to just sit in front of waves and clear, whether it's 1 or 2, but you don't want your Nico matched up in a 1 versus 2, even if it is in the more advantageous position. You have the ability to move around the map in mid lane, but you have teleport on your Nico. You'll be able to get her into fights. You just don't want her sitting under tower, matched up in a 1 versus 2, not able to trade, not able to look for any sort of play.
Yeah, especially after how well No Name's been doing. Meanwhile, Swamplight, he's been farming up pretty decently, right? Might be down a little bit, but he's just going to continue to pelt on forward with the Ziggs. Should be able to get this tower just fine. Thank you, Rift Herald. And in the meantime, Ziggs, the one thing that I'm kind of surprised to not see much of with the Ziggs is the huge focus on towers, right? When Ziggs was last seen in the bot lane as a very common pick, right? He would have the strategy that I'd like to call cash money composition, where you just shove everything and this kitchen sink towards the bot lane, get the bottom tower, you move them over to the top lane, get the top tower, you move them over to mid lane, and then you get so many plates, so much damage, and the entire point of it is you push forward with the Ziggs and you use that tower taking. We didn't see any of that here, but instead we're going to be seeing another fight.
BBL Drizzy maybe caught out, stuck in the 1 versus 5 right now, as No Name's on the bottom side of the map, and BBL Drizzy left alone in this backline. Genghis Khan is going to finally get in to start to get some trades into Divine Intervention alongside that Pop Blossom. This is the combo UVG we're trying to play for. BBL Drizzy falls, but it's Aeternuma 3-hitting on this backline to just knock every single member down. Yomi survives thanks to the barrier and keeping themselves alive for a little bit longer. It's a messy exchange, but it's 4 for 3 in favor of UVG. Yomi wants to make it happen, though. Will be able to pick up the shutdown onto the Kale, goes on a rampage, but is immediately shut back down by Swamplight.
And what was looking like the worst possible position for a support to be in turns into the greatest bait of all time. BBL Drizzy coming into the back, 1v5 on a Braum somehow turns into a teamfight win for UVG, as Literal Monkeys just focuses so much down onto the Braum and say, hey, well, Braum's here. Braum's a free kill. And then you have to break through the Unbreakable. You have to break through the Kale ulti. And all of a sudden, BBL Drizzy turns into a huge investment of resources that's not worth it for the side of Literal Monkeys. Look at this Pop Blossom. Look at the Kale damage. Look at Swamp Light constantly pelting in with bombs, completely uncontested. Yomi gets a few autos here and there onto the Ziggs, but nothing that's even remotely close to threatening. So in the end, it is going to be Ultraviolet Gaming coming out on top of a fight that they had no business winning.
Yeah, some incredible team play there. We were talking a little bit earlier about how this Monkeys composition, they have players who are known. They have players who have been around the scene before. They have the synergy built up between each other, whether it is playing on rival teams or on organizations together. But now we're starting to see that UVG is no slouch in terms of their synergy either. I think it was maybe a questionable positioning there from BBL Jersey to be stuck in that 1 versus 5, but the fact that the rest of the team collapsed on it, the fact that they were all there for her and made sure that the play was able to be made around it and they salvaged that play is such an incredible showing from this squad.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that turns into either trust or immediately recognizing that, hey, we can work with this here, like we can turn this into a winning fight. And whether or not the team has that exact kind of synergy or just that split decision making, I don't know what the answer is, but if you have either one of those, that's just terrifying, right?
Yeah, there's a saying in not only in League of Legends but also just in the wide world as a whole, a bad plan is better than no plan. And I think it applies especially well to League of Legends. If you are following someone's shot calling, whether it's good or bad, as long as you have all 5 members of your team on the same page and they're making the play, making the call, it's gonna work out better than if you just have everybody off doing their own thing and hoping that everybody just like mind melds and connects to the same plan together without any sort of idea.
Yeah, UVG honestly have been playing super well together as a full-on team every single time that we've seen them grouped up. So despite Literal Monkeys having the Deathball composition, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised by UVG's ability to deal with that in response. Meanwhile, in this mid lane, Swamp Light, he's just going to continue throughout these bombs. It's going to be pretty dang hard for Yomi and Pink Penguin to break through that one. You all, Singular Bread started this game off on a roll, but starting to not necessarily fall off, but struggle a little bit in making things happen.
Oh, looking for some relevance up here on the top side, but the collapse from that Paranoia, the global ultimate saving that top laner. Genghis Khan trying to get the damage down on the ball slab. LeBlanc has a little bit too much mobility, though will be able to walk away, but Singular Bread now forced to walk away as well. And what looks like the aggression started by Monkeys is immediately counteracted by UVG.
Yeah, I mean, it started off looking like Monkeys finally had an opportunity, finally had a way in. And Aternumi, you know, she just plops down the ultimate. Genghis Khan also throws in an ultimate of her own here, and just like that, it's no longer a 2v1, it's just a 2v2. And right here, Little Monkeys need to find a way how to not just Deathball, but Deathball for a pick that matters. With the Kale ulti down, it's definitely a possibility, but do you really want to spend so much time and effort to shut down the Kale when there's so much going on the rest of the map?
Yeah, you have to be careful about where you put your resources and what you do with them, because if you do leave the Ziggs or the Nico alone in a side lane for a little bit too long, they're gonna take your turrets, they're gonna force you inside your base, and that's not a position you want to be in against as a Deathball composition, especially against a composition like this UVG one that has such good sieging power.
Yeah, I mean, look at this mid lane. It's absolutely uncontestable. There's barely a stiff breeze that has been breathed onto this mid tower. It's essentially full health here. And meanwhile, Swamp Light and BBL Drizzy just gonna continue to clear out these waves, make sure that it's essentially impossible for the Ziggs to be in a bad position. You know, Aternumi, this is the power of playing a champ you're comfortable with. You know your strong points. You know how to play patient when you have to play patient. You know what you can win against, what you don't have the ability to win against. And here we're seeing a teleport into another dragon fight.
Yeah, it is going to be Monkeys looking to try and contest this, trying to get into this dragon. They want to get to their soul point. They have all 5 members. down here. Hook not going to land from Pink Penguin. Every single scale shot going wide. The Glacial Fissure will find a knockup, but it's just onto Pink Penguin, who's got the flash to be able to get out the locket as well. But Genghis Khan wants to follow up, wants to find the kill. There's a bomb on the backline as well. The Pop Blossom onto 3. It's a huge amount of damage onto the enemy backline. UVG have found their turn. They're looking for it. Genghis Khan will die on the backline. TLP wants to make a play happen, looking for it, but Aeternumi again free firing onto the Kale. Yomi looking for a turnaround, but that divine intervention from Kale is just going to keep them a little bit too healthy. Yomi with a beautiful turnaround timing to get that auto as soon as Kale is vulnerable, and Monkeys have salvaged the play. Singular Bread wants to find the rest of this cleanup. A little bit squishy, though, on this Udyr. You're going to face the rest of these members, but then Leanne's turn. A little bit too much from the Udyr, and Monkeys will take home the team fight win.
Yeah, Monkeys finally getting that win that they needed here, but Swamplight's still alive, still has the ability to just poke down Singular Bread. I don't think Udyr can do this without any backup.
He'll have to
Watch
double
Ball
W
Slap.
in a couple seconds. Ball Slap is here to try and support. The Ethereal Chains will go wide, but that double Mark of Distortion, Mark of Malice is a lot of damage. So it's going to force Swamplight away. It does mean that Singular Bread and Yomi will be able to finish off this dragon, and Monkeys will finally get themselves 2 soul points.
Yeah, Monkeys finally getting that one team fight win that they needed, and so much of that was from Yomi, right? So a large amount of the early part of that team fight was Genghis Khan found an opportunity onto Pink Penguin, got the Nautilus out of the fight, might have chased a little bit too far for too long there. Yes, No Name landed a great Pop Blossom onto the damage dealers, but Yomi stayed alive for so long, stayed, available, and stayed auto-attacking, right? This Kaisa just constantly outputting damage and not in danger means that a lot of these frontliners for the side of Ultraviolet Gaming are not going to be having the greatest time, right? You don't really have these tanky frontliners. The tankiest one is going to be BBL Drizzy, but you're on a support budget.
No Name, has the ability to escape out here. Is going to be able to walk away, but yeah. The support econ, as much as you are playing a full tank champion, you're playing Braum, you've got the Unbreakable, you're tanky while that's up, and that's great. But as soon as that wall drops, you are pretty much as squishy as like a bruiser. You're not going to have the incredible amount of tank stats that like Singular Bread is going to have on this Udyr with that Jack Show, with the Dead Man's Playlist. Speaking of BBL Drizzy, she's going to get engaged on. Has that Unbreakable though, so it's going to be fairly tanky, but will have to lose their flash to make sure that damage follow from Yomi can't be there. And that's going to mean it's vision control here for the Baron Pit for the Monkeys.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of cockiness coming in from Drizzy. I mean, last time we saw her walk in 1v5, it turned into a team fight win for Ultraviolet Gaming. This time it's going to turn into a Summoner Spell loss. So I think now BBL Drizzy, she's got to really, tighten up a little bit, right? Just tighten up the play, just try to make sure that things don't get as crazy, not as sloppy. You don't have the ability to just walk straight in. You don't have your Kale to constantly babysit you in that opportunity. But if we see more of these bait plays, I'd honestly love to see another one of those crazy Ultraviolet Gaming collapses, right? Because the first time we saw it work out, oh man, was that fun.
Yeah, but for Ultraviolet Gaming, I think the kids call it locking in. You just gotta
locking in. That was the term.
Yeah, you gotta lock in. You gotta be there and fully cognizant. It's game 1. You're shaking some rust off from the last series that you played. Again, going down 0-2 in a series never feels great, but this is your chance to come back, and you're performing incredibly well throughout this game. I thought once we saw the 0-5 scoreline in the first like couple of minutes, I was like, oh yeah, these Monkeys guys, they know what they're doing. They're gonna be able to just run this one over. We might have a quick 2-0 series on our hand. But UVG have consistently proved me wrong in my mind, have brought it back again and again, and have shown why they need to be respected throughout this series.
Oh yeah, I mean, it started off so poorly, and meanwhile, Aethernumi's at level 17. We completely glossed over Kale hitting win condition, aka level 16, and this is a full crit Kale coming on in. I mean, when you've got so much magic damage from the rest of the team, crit Kale works out just fine. Look at that! Meanwhile, still has a teleport available. Baron is started up for the side of Literal Monkeys here.
He's going to be the Paranoia in, but the smite goes over to Yomi of all people. No Name's on the backline, though, getting some damage down on it to that Kaisa. The Zon just pops. Aeternumi has teleported in and is looking for the play. Pink Penguin will be the next one to fall. BBL Drizzy trying to get some extra damage down, trying to get that extra bit of CC, but it's just the rest of the members of the Monkeys escaping with their Baron buffs. losing 2 for keep your Baron is not the worst spot that you're going to be in.
Yeah. 2 for Baron it should be just fine, but now that you have Ultraviolet Gaming in the wings here, they should be able to group up, push down this lane, try to make something happen. You're not going to see too much fighting until that Ocean Drag comes up. So now you're seeing a lot of members, they're just going to be backing. They're going to try to get that vision down just in time for that dragon. The big question is who's going to be having the lane pushing at the right time, right? So mid lane still up, like, you know, that's the one place where that mid tower is still available. Meanwhile, you look at this fight, you got the Paranoia in slightly late from Genghis Khan, but in the end, you've got the pickups on the back line here. Nico not going to be able to do much in the back except for keep Yomi from playing the game, right?
Yeah.
Because Kaisa doesn't get to just constantly auto everything, you don't instantly lose the fight. This Kaisa is where I honestly think you should be focusing all of your damage.
Yeah, this is the real target, whether it's keeping them out of the fight or just making sure that
Oh.
they can't play, as Aeternumi is looking for the turnaround, the red buff, the Bork kiting to BLP. There is just nothing you can do in the 1v1 as Genghis Khan will come in to sneak away that last hit. As Singular is here and is moving very quickly on this back line, getting that flank down on Aeternumi. Ballstaff is going to look for the follow-up. They know that there's no divine intervention for the Kale, and they will shut her down. Genghis Khan now looking for some access to the backline, but the shielding, the sustain, just a little bit too much from Yomi on this Kaisa, popping the stopwatch for style points. No Name is gonna try and find some extra damage off of that pop loss, and they'll find Singular Bread, but it's just a consolation prize off of the beautiful collapse from the Monkey.
Yeah, and I was saying that we're not going to be seeing too much fighting until this dragon is up, and we get a fight directly before dragon, but Aeternumi just goes for too much, right? The flash for the divine intervention for the Renekton, sure, you get the kill, but as we said, Yomi on this Kaisa is where you need to be focusing all of your attention. There's so much damage on this Kaisa. So without that divine intervention, you've got the LeBlanc, you've got the Kaisa, right, that are going to be doing so much damage. While you're likely knocked up from the Nautilus Death Charge, you cannot be burning this ultimate without your team around, without a great reason to do so, because it could just turn into a huge problem.
Yeah, and especially now that Yomi has this extra defensive item in inventory, not going for the full AD on hit Kaisa. This is a pretty mixed AP on hit build, but now with that Zonya's in inventory as well, it's going to be so much harder to shut down this Kaisa. You already have the Locket, the Knight's Vow, the Killer Instinct, the Barrier that you have to work through if you want to shut down this AD carry, but now you have a Zonya's on top of that extra 2.5 seconds to let the rest of his team come in and support it.
And not only is it a Zonya's, it's an Ocean Soul, which means that you're going to be getting so much healing on top of that. The biggest problem that this kind of Kaisa build tends to run into is you don't have any sustain, right? You know, any sort of damage, any sort of poke that hits you tends to stick because you're not running any sort of lifesteal build. Maybe you're running lifesteal in your runes, but now with Ocean Soul, that's not a thing to worry about. So you just get the damage on damage, and you don't really have to worry as much about the survivability. You know, champions like Ziggs don't just invalidate you as the fight goes onwards, because you actually can survive from that poke. Meanwhile, Aeternumi walking up again.
Yeah, but I think they're caught out this time. A Singular Bread is here, and that Ocean Soul is putting in so much work for TLP. He can finally stand up to the Kale in the side lane, and especially with this jungler's help, he is not afraid anymore.
Yeah, meanwhile in this mid lane, we're just going to get constant waves shoved in back and forth, but this tower is getting lower and lower. Honestly, I think if Yomi just tries to get these autos off, should be a tower going fully down.
Grubs.
All right, there it is.
Little bit of a grub stiff there with the early game lead that the Monkeys had. They got all 6 grubs. We haven't seen too much value out of it so far this game, but now that they had that Baron buff and they've got the Ocean Soul, they've got a little bit more map domination, so they're able to actually play for this objective and play for these towers, as Sigma Fred just, happily farming between turrets. It's an Ocean Soul Udyr. He's not exactly going to feel any major threat, I think, from anybody outside of this Kale.
Yeah, I mean, Kale now with the Executioner's Calling picked up. I mean, we've also got the Oblivion Orb on No Name, so there's at least a little bit of healing reduction. on these carries, but having healing reduction still doesn't necessarily feel the best, right? Having to move your build around in order to reduce some of the healing from the enemy team, while yes, getting healing reduction to Ocean Soul can be nice, so much more gold being spent on things that you don't really want to be spending it on.
I do think for the Kale, it's actually okay with the buffs that they laid down to the Mortal Reminder. It is a lot more comparable to Lord Dominic's Regard in terms of a crit/armor pen item, which means that for the Kale, you're not feeling as dreadful if you have to pick that one up, especially if you're going for this full crit style build. I don't know how I feel about No Name having the anti-heal. I would have loved to see that on Swamp Light. You already are building both the burn items, that Blackfire Torch, and the Leandries, and anti-heal is applied whenever you do magic damage, so I think I would have preferred to see it in the inventory of the Ziggs, but I don't think it's bad on the Nico per se. You have the AoE damage that's going to be able to apply it as Sacred Bread. Yeah, that's who you're alright. You walk forward, you press double R, and you absolutely do not care about anything the enemy team can do to you.
I mean, whether it's Udyr or Mundo, man just goes where he pleases. Singular Bread just going to continue to walk in, do whatever it is that he wants, and get so much vision set up for this Baron. Baron not quite started up just yet, but we have to be watching that one here, and so does Ultraviolet Gaming. BBL Drizzy still looking to try to make something happen here. Meanwhile, on the bot side, we're getting a full-on teleport out from TLP.
Yeah, I think it's just to maneuver over to this Baron. They're going to be forced to use that double dash to get out, but the Baron's already gone. It's smited away, paranoia or not. Pink Penguin looking for some kind of engage. There's that Mega Inferno Bomb over the top. Adrian Numi on the side of your screen. Watch it off the 5.
Whoa!
Blossom from No Name! They found their engage. Can they find the fight? Yumi's going to get into that. Zonni's Hourglass is trying to be alive for a little bit longer. They found the shutdown. Baron goes over, but UVG have found their fight.
Yomi is down. I repeat, Yomi is down. The Kaisa, the hugest amount of damage, the most important member of Literal Monkeys right now, is down. Now you have no wave clear, no DPS, no way how to deal with Ziggs Kale walking straight down this mid lane here. Drizzy going to cancel the back, trying to make sure that her carries are still going to stay alive here, but an incredible Pop Blossom from No Name coming out from seemingly nowhere. The paranoia was gone. That was in full vision there. And let's watch this one back here. So, depth charge onto BBL Drizzy. H&Umi gets in just in time, slightly late. The flash forward for an incredible Pop Blossom from No Name. 5-man Pop Blossom. You could not ask for a better example of a team fight winning ultimate.
Yeah, I think especially off of No Name's engage, the positioning from Numi to be just in the right spot outside of the threat range of the members of Monkeys, while also being in range to deal damage yourself as BBL Drizzy. Deja vu, I've been in this place before. I feel like I've seen this play happen. It's the paranoia on the back line. They found Ball Slap again off that paranoia. Now it's BBL Drizzy looking for an engage, trying to get something down. The Mega Inferno Bomb over the top. That's a lot of damage to that back line. The Soul is going to keep them sustained, but it can't keep them in the fight. It's a double kill for Genghis Khan, and it's the Elder over to UVG.
Yeah, it's the Elder over to UVG, and I believe that's a bounty on top of that one as well. Definitely going to be feeling good with that one. I also got to say, right, so we were not necessarily dissing the Braum earlier. We were just kind of noting that it's not necessarily something that you want to pair with Ziggs for the 2v2. But the reason for the Braum is not for the Ziggs. The reason for the Braum is for champions like this Nocturne, like this Kale, right? So once you get into these later game fights, the single auto from this Braum, from BBL Drizzy, she's gotten this passive proc up on so many important targets, especially, you know, in that last fight where Pink Penguin flashes forward to try to get an auto off, try to get a hook off onto Aternumi. Braum passive stopped directly in his tracks, and the Braum is coming up huge in so many of these fights.
Yeah, I think all the question marks that we had for UVG coming into this split in this first game alone have all been answered. It's just now a matter of how do they finish out this series. We know how they can play. We know they have the coordination to play with each other. We know they have a draft that can work for them and they can play through their carries. It's just a matter of, can they find a win off of all this success coming their way? Can they find a series win off the next draft, off of game 3, if it even goes to that? But for Monkeys, I think it's a bit of a disappointment to be sitting in this spot. You are up gold, you have the soul in your inventory, but you're not able to find these team fight wins. You're not able to get access to that backline in the same way that you were just 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. You know, the game's not over just yet. There's still so much that can be done from the side of Literal Monkeys, right? You have to get past this Elder Drag, but the moment that you do, you know, you still have the gold lead, right? Let's say in that last fight, Atronumi does get locked down, or No Name doesn't get that miracle team fight ultimate. This is still a very doable match, right? Still super back and forth between these teams. Meanwhile, Atronumi right now on the front line, taking a decent bit of poke while also being able to put out a ton of damage on her own.
Yeah, but this is where the siege is going to come fully into effect. All 5 members of UVG up here just sieging down this first inhibitor, breaking open the base of the Monkeys. And Monkeys, if you, off of an Elder Dragon, you only use 1 inhibitor, it's not the worst spot that you're going to be in. Elder Dragon is an objective that lasts a little bit less long than the Baron does, so you don't have as much time with it on the map. I think it's going to be falling off fairly soon here. But it looks like they actually want to look for some kind of trade. Yomi, have to be careful with how far forward you're walking. That was an auto and an E from the Kale, taking her down to just about half HP. Whew.
Oh, baby. And that was not anything amounting to luck. That's 100% crit chance on this Kale. Every single one of those autos are just going to be doing that kind of damage, right? And as I was saying earlier, right, usually the biggest problem with this kind of a Kaisa build is you lack sustain. You lack the ability to survive in these fights. And the Ocean Soul is going to be able to mitigate the Ziggs damage for, you know, a decent bit of the overlap stuff. But Kale damage is not something you're ever going to be able to mitigate. That was through barrier.
Yeah, that was barrier and locket being used just as the defensive tools to make sure that a third auto doesn't come through and picks up that execute off the Elder Dragon. It's a rough spot, I think, for the Monkeys to be in, but now with the Elder Dragon starting to fall off, those buffs now falling away, this is going to be their time to try and find a fight around the Baron, up into just about 30 seconds, if they can start to manage some sort of side lane control as you see the members of Monkeys over up there on the top side of the map, just making sure that the lane is going to push in for them, they'll be able to maintain control, maybe move some vision into this topside jungle of UVG, because they need to find something, because if they lose this Baron, I think the game might just end.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments where you could go for what looks like a game-saving play with a Baron steal, right? But I think that a single champion being down just means that the game completely ends. So you have to play so safe. Watch out for Atronumi here. Could be in a lot of trouble.
Ball Slap is here. They're going to be able to pick up the turret, but now stuck in the 1v2. They're going to use that Divine Intervention to stay alive through a little bit of that LeBlanc burst. The stun's going to come through from TLP. They found the side lane play. They committed a lot of resources to get there, but the Baron is not started from UVG. Singular Bread is here. The rest of the members of UVG can't start this without their Kale, and now they have an entire minute.
Oh, this is way too late.
That they have to try and get through to make sure that Kale is going to be able to make it back to this fight. They do have to teleport. You just have to stall. Singular Bread doesn't want to let that happen. Has the Ghost on, is trying to just play aggressive in this front line, trying to find some sort of engage, trying to get their team into this fight. It's a flash forward onto the engage. It's all damage down onto BBL Jersey. Here's that Pop Blossom and the Mega in front of him. It's a huge amount of damage over the back line. Yomi finds BBL Jersey, but it's immediately trained back 1-for-1 with Notorious TLP. But with the damage off that Prey Seeker, the Killer Instinct comes through. Yomi's going to find that kill. And now 20 seconds still left on Atronumi. About a minute left on BBL Jersey and No Name. It's 4v2 for now. They have to stall 10 seconds, but it looks like the members of Monkeys just want to pick up the inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Monkeys can actually push for the win here. You know, Ziggs staying alive is honestly crucial. That's the one thing that makes sure that this game stays available for the side of UVG. But Atronumi being down in that fight was so unbelievably crucial. Another huge pop blossom from No Name and a flash forward.
Paranoia on the line. They have found Yumi. There's no Zhonya's. There's no barrier. There's no flash. That is a dead Kaisa. Shutdown goes over to Genghis Khan. Singular Red is the only one able to walk away as Pink Penguin falls as well. And now with no bottom lane, suddenly the shoe's on the other foot. Monkeys are now the one on the back foot staring down the barrel of a UVG Baron.
Remember, there is no flash on this Udyr. There's essentially no way to go for a steal here, and that's just going to be Baron for UVG. You know, No Name not quite going to be able to get that Baron buff, but this Nico is certainly going to be alive in time for the Elder. Look at that teleport. Everyone on UVG knows it. They know what they want to do. They know what they have to do, and they are already working together like a well-oiled machine in these crucial moments.
Well, Lancey, welcome to Titan Esports Divinity League. Your first match here is a 50-minute banger of Game 1, and we're playing a best of 3. This is just the first game of the series.
Oh my god. This is one of those moments where you could say to yourself, wow, UVG have a gold lead now. But we're past 85,000 gold.
Yeah, the gold lead doesn't
Everyone
matter
essentially is
anymore.
full build, with the only exception being the supports. Yomi's been at full build for so long that he's sold his boots for Zephyr. Shout out to Zephyr, by the way. I've missed Zephyr for
Upgraded
such a long
boots,
time.
I love you so much.
But so much of this game has turned into an absolute slobber knocker from what started off for what could have been a perfect game from Literal Monkeys has turned into 24-30, nearly 50 minutes in game 1 of a best of 3.
Yeah, if we were able to time travel back 30 minutes ago and you told me, hey, UVG are going to look to win this game off of a Baron buff at 47 minutes, I would have been like, there's no shot they make it that far. Monkeys are so coordinated. They're playing so well in this early game. It's so much in their favor, but they've played it back. They've managed it back. Now with Baron and Elder in their pockets, they have to find a way to crack open this base. And if they can, Monkeys are going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest question at that point, right? If you went back in time, told the two of us that I might have been able to say, you know what, I could see it, Kale moment coming around. I don't think either of us anticipated No Name to just start coming in with consistent 5-man pop blossoms. This Nico play has been unbelievable in these later game fights. Ichinumi, yeah, I mean, we know she plays Kale. It's literally in her tag, right? We know that this was going to be something that Literal Monkeys were going to have a problem with. No Name's, I mean, No Name's Nico. Absolutely something to keep your eyes on for this next fight, because if we see another one of those 5-man pop blossoms, or more crucially, just a pop blossom onto Yomi, that could immediately be the game. Look at these W's coming in from the Kaisa. These Prey Seekers just constantly being thrown out. Probably Void Seekers. I think Prey Seekers is Rek'Sai, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But, I mean, look at this damage coming on out here. Yomi is where everything relies on.
Swamp Lake, you have to be careful. You're just stepping up a little bit too far forward without your team. You're going to be able to drop back and defend them. Wallstop's going to be forced away by Eternity, but the objectives had now fallen off. There's no Baron buff, there's no Elder Dragon anymore, so the push from UVG has been stopped. It's 2 inhibitors down for both sides here, both in top and mid, but now the rest of UVG are taking the inside track. I don't know if this is the play that they want to make, though. They're going to be immediately forced to recall as their base is under threat from the squad of the Monkeys.
Yeah, I mean, going to recall in here, but I'm not 100% sure just how much threat there really was, because, both of the inhibs are already down. Yes, they could go for the full-on Nexus turrets had things gone a little bit further than that, but I don't know. The 5-man backs might be a little bit overzealous from UVG, but at this point, you just have to make sure to respect everything. You don't want a very silly mistake to turn into the game loss, right? Meanwhile, Yomi still picking up more gold, still picking up more ways to get into a more full build, question mark. I'm not 100% certain as to where that one's going. But in the meantime, Singular Bread's still going to be walking forward, still going to try to make things happen.
Ghost is popping. Genghis-Khan has that tether on. They're looking for the fear. They're looking for the pick. They found their side lane opportunity. That Singular Bread down, and that's a huge amount of the front line gone for the Literal Monkeys. The inhibitors are going to respawn for UVG as well, so now there's no super minions pushing in. You can see the waves in mid and top are going to start to shove in their favor. UVG may have found their opportunity to finally end this game, as it's still a minute away from Singular Bread finding their respawn. It's just going to be a matter of, can they get to this tower? Can they siege it down? Or are they going to lose too much health before they even get there?
Yeah, I mean, once again, the Kaisa W's just doing so much work there, but one W onto a minion means that they're now finally allowed to push up. Ultraviolet Gaming started this game off, I believe, 0-9? And it was so unbelievably in Literal Monkey's favor, and all of a sudden, here we go.
Second Nexus turret is the target. It's the Mega Inferno Bomb onto that backline. The Death Charge just being used to stall for time. Try and keep Numi away from these turrets. There's the Renekton getting that Dominus pinned onto the backline.
Oh.
They found the no-name. Yomi's untouched on the backline, but it's just going to get the Killer Instinct in. And I think they're going to be the next target, but it's not the Kale. It's not the Kaisa. It's just looking for the end of the game. Kills don't matter. The Nexus is the objective that matters. And they're going to take game 1 away from Monkeys.
I cannot believe my eyes. Ultraviolet Gaming coming back from an insane deficit early onto the game, and in the end, Numi Kale. Like, what the hell were they thinking? Letting the Kale through, one of the #1 things that we said this should not exist in this game, and top in the damage charts, there it is. Meanwhile, No Name with some incredible pop blossoms, just constantly the team finding ways to punch their way back into a winning spot here. And there's no shot we see that Kale coming in game 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the draft for game 2, I think from both sides, something has to change for both teams. Because I think in the early game, there was the worry for UVG. They had their couple of losing lanes playing with the Nocturne, playing against the Renekton, against the LeBlanc. The early game looked shaky, and as much as the comeback was incredible, and props to them for taking this game 1, I think there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered for the early game, and they do have to shape up if they want to take game 2 as well.
But we're just gonna have to see how things do turn out once the game 2 comes around. So, don't go anywhere.
I see you, peekaboo, I see you, looking at me, looking at you. Hold up, where you going? What you doing? Who you seeing? What you need? What you want? I said, without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. One time from side to side.
Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow, moving with the motion, following the light that sets me
Welcome back, everybody. We are here after what was a banger of a matchup in Game 1 between Ultraviolet Gaming and Literal Monkeys. Ultraviolet Gaming did take home the win, but there is something we have to call them out for here on broadcast. Before the game, we checked with all the players just to make sure that we knew everybody's pronouns coming into the game, and they gave us the wrong ones. So, Ultraviolet Gaming, you're weird for that. We're not going to say anything more, but you are a little weird for that.
During Pride, come on, man. Anyway, so moving on. Game number 1, lots of fun, 50-minute banger. I'm pretty sure that neither of these teams want to have to deal with another 50-minute banger, but we might as
Our
well
producers
get one
don't.
of those. What we definitely don't want to be seeing here is Kale. right? If
Yeah.
you're on the side of literal monkeys, you don't want to be seeing Kale because you don't want to have to deal with it again. If you're on the side of UVG, I honestly think that there's a part of you that doesn't want to be seeing Kale just because you want to be able to draft something a little different, perhaps, right? But either way, H&U ridiculous on that Kale. I mean, that was an absolute showcase of what the champion can do. You know, sometimes he got a little bit overzealous, but you know, the Kale still output the most damage in the game by a long shot.
Yeah, it is also worth mentioning, No Name on that Nico, setting up the plays consistently, multiple 5-man Pop Blossoms, multiple team fight winning Pop Blossoms, even if they didn't find all 5, just keeping Yomi out of the fight, forcing that Killer Instinct early, forcing the barrier or the Zanyas. It was just a showcase on what a counter Death Ball team comp can do.
I mean, Death Ball composition versus Disengage is going to work just fine. Not even Disengage, just punishes you for Death Balling is a particularly good way how to play that one out. But now that we get into game number 2, we are going to be seeing a little bit of a different thing. So for one, I do believe that Ultraviolet Gaming are actually losing a ban for this one. So basically Swamp Light had a tag change, right at the very end. It changed from, I believe, TCG or something like that to UVG for Ultraviolet Gaming.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we're going to be seeing a Teemo ban. It's not extra cooking. It's simply just going to be Ultraviolet Gaming losing a ban for not giving the heads up that things did change. But in the meantime, Literal Monkeys now on the back foot definitely have to change up a few things. I do think that once you take the Kale away, right? Past that, the biggest questions is what else is the problem that you want to be dealing with? Now, you could be throwing in your own kind of brain power to try to figure that one out, you know, scouring through the OPGGs, or you could use something a lot more helpful.
Yeah, something a little bit more helpful, maybe like our sponsor for tonight's stream, Procomps.gg. We're giving them a quick shout out as they're a game changer app for the League of Legends community. It's not just like any of your other tools, it's a personal draft coach, perfect for both teams and solo players. In fact, you can even pair it with any other app that you use. Procomp stands out with features like custom champion pools, personalized heroes, and live draft advice. You can think of it like having a virtual coach and a strategy toolkit all wrapped up into one. They offer real-time champ and ban recommendations, and they already have over 200,000 downloads with thousands of daily users just like you. ProComps is user-friendly and is 100% free. It's a no-brainer to not at least give it a go. You can download ProComps now and you'll experience a whole new level of drafting power in your League of Legends games. You can go to procomps.gg or download it from Overwolf or click the panel that's located below our stream.
I mean, just as Pretty said, Pro Comps pretty dang helpful, especially for these teams, right? I'm pretty confident Pro Comps would not have said, let the Kale through.
Oh yeah, I think they would have thrown up a big red flag and said, hey, this person one-tricks this champion, maybe you don't want to let it through. But we are going to see that misban there for UVG on that first ban. On our end, it's a Teemo, but on your end, it's just going to be that blank space. Again, Chris Sunga and Loki Bear are the production, making sure that everything runs smoothly in the background. Huge shout-outs to them. It is the Caitlyn second ban, so far, not too much has changed. That Kale still up and available. I know in between games, you were calling it out as a, hey, if this isn't first ban, I'm getting a little concerned.
I mean, now I'm guessing we're going to be seeing the Jinx ban away. Oh, the Karthus, once again, from UVG.
Okay.
So it was the Jinx, Karthus, and the Caitlyn from UVG last time around, so they are going to prioritize that Karthus, which means that Yomi on the Jinx could be a lot of damage, and there's the Kale ban! Thank you very much! League of Legends can learn new tricks. But here we are. Now, first pick blue side, the Ziggs, once again, does allow you a flex pick.
I'm surprised to see that Zig's priority be so high. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I think with the Jinx being up and on the table, I wouldn't be shocked if Monkeys just, locked that one away immediately. It's such a strong AD carry right now. The crit item changes we were talking about in Game 1 being so good in her favor, and she's just so safe with any enchanter that you could pair her with.
Yeah, I'm honestly expecting to see something like a Leona paired with the Ziggs because we're not going to be having that super high amount of auto attacks from the Kale, from the Nocturne. I mean, maybe we see a Nocturne again. It honestly worked out pretty well. But instead, it's the Braum once again. So you're likely going to be having another kind of top laner to get hella auto attacks off here. You know, you need someone to get all these autos off when you can't just get the Ziggs, and Corki should be able to do it just fine. And that will tell us that it could still be Corki AD carry, Ziggs mid, could also swap things around a little bit, but I honestly loved seeing Corki in that bot lane again.
Yeah, Corki being no longer stuck in package jail makes me so happy as a spectator. I don't just have to be like, okay, Corki got locked in, I guess I can go to the bathroom, take a shower, take a break every 6 minutes between the objectives, because the teams aren't going to fight when the Corki package isn't up. They're just going to play back. They're just going to relax. But now, Corki's got his true damage back. He's able to be played in the bottom lane again. He's more physical damage focused. You're not seeing any AP one-shot rockets from Chovy anymore. It's just standard lethality build and crit builds coming out from him.
Yeah, no longer are you going to be seeing the AP crits. Instead, you're going to be seeing true damage crits on the autos, which, for your information, still hurt quite a dang bit. But now with Nocturne taken off the table, Lilia as well, we're going to be seeing a lot more of these AoE team fight ultimate strength junglers getting taken off the table. So Skarner for Singular Bread here. Now, that's a champion that I've actually been seeing a decent bit come up in the OPGGs, specifically for Singular Bread.
Yeah, this is a champion who has been super influential since his rework. I'm a little surprised to actually see him let through the pick ban. I thought for sure it would have been a ban in the second phase, maybe instead of that Poppy or that Syndra, but allowing it to go through means that Singular Bread is not only an uncomfortable champion, but this is a champion that is so strong currently in the meta. Health stacking is coming into form for tanks, and Skarner has such good health scaling. He's just such a ridiculous tank. And for that top side, for the UVG side, you were mentioning an auto-attacking top laner, and even in the jungle, Xin Zhao and Gwen are going to be two heavy auto-attackers to pair up alongside that Braum.
Yeah, I mean, auto-attackers definitely going to be the name of the game, but I will also say, Gwen, pretty dang similar in terms of what she wants to do. When it comes to Gwen or Kayle, it's always going to be about DPS. You're going to be making sure that the enemy AD carries don't really just get free realm to do whatever it is that they want. When it comes to Kayle, she gets to just match their range. When it comes to Gwen, it's a matter of actually having the AD carry force to walk straight into them if they want to be able to output any sort of DPS. So the compositions win conditions still do play fairly similar here. So we're going to have to see if things do change for the side of Literal Monkeys, or if UVG can bring out another crazy comeback victory.
Yeah, but for now, we are stepping on to the Rift here in game number 2. Some shifts in the draft, some changes going on across the Rift, but for the most part, I think stylistically the comps remaining pretty similar. We've got Ball Slap on an aggressive mid laner with that Ignite and Electrocute on the Ahri. We've got a Hyper Carry for Yomi. We've got the Ziggs Braum in the bottom side for Swamp Light and BBL. And Aeternumi on that top side Hyper Carry.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say it. I love me some Gwen, right? I've played her for such a long time. That champion, honestly, very interesting to see how different players play her differently, right? So it's very rare to see Gwen with the Flash nowadays. A lot of the times you're going to be seeing it with the Ghost, with the Ignite. Now that we got the Ghost nerfs, I'm not that surprised to see the Flash, but it's still a little bit unconventional, I guess, would be the way to put it in comparison to what we've seen in the past in competitive play.
Yeah, I do think the Ignite was potentially an option here coming into this Jax matchup, but I'm going to be honest, I haven't played top lane in quite some time. I have not a ton of experience with the Gwen versus Jax matchup. I'm actually not 100% sure who's supposed to be winning this in the early game.
So I'd actually argue, so in level 1, Gwen should be winning in this 1v1. Now the thing is, Aeternumi actually getting off a few of these Qs a little bit too early when Jax's Counter-Strike is still up. The biggest reason as to why Gwen can win in these level 1 fights is because you get a little bit of poke down with the Q, but the moment that Jax has the Counter-Strike available, right, you want to have a Q up for yourself so that way you can just Q straight through that one, that stun, and you're not going to be losing out on damage there. In the meantime, right, now that you're level 2, we've got the dashes, we've got the autos, we've got the trades out the wazoo. I think that this is one of those matchups where having Ignite would be unbelievably useful for this. Like, Ignite gives you lethal there. But in the meantime, you're just going to be playing for that late game hyper carry. We're just going to be playing for the available, scaling from this Gwen. So it's not like Flash is ever going to be bad.
Yeah, Flash is one of those summoner spells that the game really is just designed around, so almost every time you're going to be seeing it, people are just, like, expected to have it. It's never going to be bad to have. I mean, even if you're on someone like Singed or Hecarim, you're never going to be able to say, like, well, they should have had... They're, like, absolutely useless because they don't have Ghost. Flash is still that good.
Yeah, like we said, right? Flash is never going to be bad. Meanwhile, speaking of never going to be bad, Yomi on the Jinx, never going to be a bad combo. There's a reason why Jinx was one of the first 3 bans in that last game here, right? Yomi definitely going to be not only a very strong, consistent player, as we saw in that last game, going to be able to output so much damage on a hyper carry like Jinx, especially with Emilio.
Yeah, I think Emilio, honestly, in competitive play, has been one of the most underrated enchanters that I've seen in a long time. I think for the most part, he's probably one of the best enchanters, if not the best. I think you could argue that right now Lulu's in a spot where she could be that good, maybe Renata in certain compositions, but the amount of safety that Emilio provides for your squad is so good. Like, the fact that Yomi doesn't need to take Cleanse in this game against the Braum Ziggs and can instead just take the heal or the barrier is such a useful bit of utility off of that level 6, the warm hugs coming through from Pink Penguin.
Yeah, I mean, Emilio just does so much work. An 80 carries Wet Dream, right? You have ways to disengage. You have ways to survive. You have extra auto attack range now that, lethal tempo is gone. Emilio just feels so good to be playing with.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I was worried about specifically coming into this scene was the loss of lethal tempo for the crit ADCs. I thought for sure Jinx was going to struggle, Kai'Sa was going to struggle, but for the most part, they've been feeling okay as Yomi's potentially in trouble here. We see Genghis Khan on the rotate down, looking for some sort of engage. Wind becomes lightning. He's going to lane, going to force that flash out of Yomi. Flash away from Pink Penguin as well. The heal as well. Flash forward from BBL, trying to get that extra stun down, but couldn't find the lethal on it, so it's just a lot of flashes exchanged, but it's Monkey's on the losing side.
Yeah, Monkey's going to be losing out on that one. So many summer spells going to be burned there. In the meantime, UVG have pretty much only burned the flash for BBL Drizzy. And as we've seen before, Braum pretty slippery, right? Last game, we saw BBL Drizzy literally walk directly into the enemy team 1v5, and it turned into a team fight win for Ultraviolet Gaming. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the Braum truly does get punished for this.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the difference maker for this bottom side, because this is something that we talked about in the draft for Game 1, but that was so long ago at this point. I want to go over it again. The Braum Ziggs doesn't have as much pairing in the laning phase. They're not a strong 2v2 duo. It's not like the Jinx Emilio where they have a lot of synergy together. Ziggs wants to sit back and farm and just, throw spells, but Braum really needs someone who's going to be auto-attacking, so we're not going to be seeing a lot of the extra CC come through until we see either No Name or Genghis Khan on the rotate down, looking for either a gank or a roam of some kind.
And now, one of the things I also want to mention, right? So now that we're in the top lane, right? I said that, Gwen should be doing fine into the Jax early. Now that we've hit level 6 is actually when Gwen starts to struggle a little bit more, because Jax has that just constant damage output from the level 6 passive. So we're going to be seeing a little bit of shenanigans going on between the junglers up here, right? Singular Bread in the wings for the counter gank opportunity. But now that we're at this point, HNUE has to be a little bit careful as to whether or not Notorious TLP actually is going to be going for these crazy all-ins, because once again, they've drafted a phenomenal 2v2 composition for the top side of the map.
Yeah, I do think the UVG has a little bit more bite to them in this early game. It's not the same as a Kayle Nocturne where they really need level 6 before they're able to take a 2v2. Gwen and Xin, while not having a ton of crowd control, is a damage-heavy 2v2 and one that you definitely have to respect. So I think there's possibility for HNUE and Genghis Khan to fight back on the play and to look for something else, but it's something that we were questioning in the early game a little bit in Game 1, despite that Kayle being so strong. There were a couple of mistakes in the early game. Overstepping your bounds, playing up a little bit too aggressively. We called it playing cocky. I don't think we're fully aware of that, but, you know, overstepping, not respecting the ganks was something that Ichirumi has done in the past throughout this series, and we're seeing them continue to push aggressively in the lane. It hasn't been punished yet, but Genghis Khan did come up there and sit up for a little bit just to make sure that the gank wasn't coming through.
And speaking of ganks, one thing I do want to note here, Brady, is Singular Bread now hitting level 6, looking for that first gank here.
Ping Penguin, a little bit in trouble here as BBL is going to get pulled away from the play. There's that impale down onto 2. The Crescent Guard is going to delay the pull back by a little bit. Mega Inferno Bomb onto that back line. It's going to force the flash out of this Skarner. Mega Inferno, the Super Mega Death Rocket won't find its mark, but Ball Slap here now on the rotate, trying to get the damage down on the Genghis Khan with the Spirit Rush, finds that first blood. The auto attack's coming through, won't be able to find the stun. BBL Jersey now tanking it for the team as Yomi's going to start to get excited. The barrier comes through, but it's a flash forward from Ball Slap to guarantee the double kill for the Ahri.
And just like that, Literal Monkey's going to get that early lead that we saw in that last game. Ball Slap with a beautiful roam down to make sure that the play can work. Yomi, as always, going to be able to get those autos off, to get that DPS off continually again and again. And the first dragon once again going down to Literal Monkeys here. So we're just going to have to see whether or not this turns into another snowbally early game for Literal Monkeys, or if UVG are going to be bouncing back a little bit faster than we saw in the game number 1.
Now, last time we called out the fact that there's a potential perfect game, it was shut down pretty much immediately afterwards. UVG immediately clapped back, got themselves a couple of kills, got them on the board with a Rift Herald. But so far, it's still on track for Monkeys. No grubs given over, Dragon taken, the kills going over, even plates going over in their favor. They're on track for the same kind of early game we saw into that game 1, but now it's just going to be a matter of, can they collapse a little bit cleaner? Can they play that mid game a little bit better and not give up as many advantages over to this UVG side?
Yeah, I mean, meanwhile, top lane, I gotta say, H&Umi is just an incredible player, right? You know, just constantly in positions where he's always in the lead regardless of what the lane matchup actually is, and it's just a matter of comfortability, right? You know, you were seeing a lot of the counter picks given over to TLP, but TLP honestly getting a little bit outplayed by this top laner, and H&M just going to continue to pick up the CS lead, and that gap is just growing and growing.
We do see Ping Penguin up here to support TLP. I think they're just going to look for some sort of push out as the sun comes through. They're going to burn the needlework from the Gwen. Skarner comes in through the wall, but not able to find much else outside of that. I think it is just to try and make sure that the wave is in a good enough position that they can play for the next spawn of grubs and they can look to try and make a play on that objective.
Yeah, and there we go. Literal Monkey's going to be utilizing their time together as a team.
Oh, double flash from TLP, but not from Numi. I think looking to get in range of that leaf strike, but just couldn't find it. I think the dash and skip and splash from Gwen just a little bit too much. As BBL Jersey looking for an engage here off that Glacial Fissure. It's a nice 3-man impale though from Singular Bread on the turnaround. The stuns under tower. They found No Name first. Numi now the one in trouble, taking so much damage to BBL Jersey to fall. And the Mega Death Rocket from downtown is a double kill for Yomi.
And it's Super Mega Death Rocket absolutely living up to the name as UVG just steps a tiny bit too far forward and gets caught by the Skarner classic Impale under tower. You can rework Skarner, but you cannot rework that classic combo there. But right there, let's watch this again. BBL Drizzy gets a little bit overzealous, gets a beautiful ultimate, but triple Impale into triple Counter-Strike, beautifully layered CC until TLP gets 2 kills there, gets a lot of damage, tower helping out as well, and here comes the Super Mega Death Rocket double kill from the other side of the map there.
Yeah, that engage felt a little bit hopeful, I want to say, from BBL Jersey. I like the look, but that's onto a starter with ulti. You can't stack up like that in their face, and it will give over the next one of grubs to monkeys as well. So, again, I'm not trying to cast a curse anything, but perfect game, still on track.
Yeah, I mean, perfect game is what we were saying last time, and last time it turned into a disaster of a comeback if you're a Literal Monkeys fan. But as far as UVG is concerned, this is not a position that they haven't been in before. So you got to be a little bit careful. No getting excited just yet. Meanwhile, Yomi and TLP getting a much needed breath of fresh air. So much gold onto these two carries here, but TLP's still struggling in the 1v1.
Yeah, I think this is just sort of what the lane matchup is going to look like. Despite TLP getting the counter pick, it has just been, like you said a little earlier, Numi winning out on those hands diff moments, just playing the 1v1 that little bit better. And despite the gold starting to be in favor of TLP, the CS is still behind. The plates are still not fully in their favor. I think it's one up, and it's like a half a plate. As Numi is going to continue to play out this 1v1, I think he's just going to keep looking for these advantages. And once he gets the Riftmaker, it's not going to get much better for the Jax.
Yeah, I mean, the Triforce is so far away for Notorious TLP. Meanwhile, he's going to get a few trades here and there.
Hallowed missed. Needlework as well. This fight's going to be close. The healing coming through from Numi. It's so close. What is Numi coming out ahead in the 1v1?
Yeah, I mean, Counter-Strike can dodge all the autos in the world, and it can reduce as much AoE damage as you can, but you still cannot be sitting in that needlework. Numi just knows the damage output, knows that there's no chance for TLP to have any real threat of lethal there, and an overstep from the Jax leads to not just a kill, but a shutdown in the worst possible position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a sense of deja vu from game one. Monkeys with the lead early. They're picking up the objectives. They're picking up kills. They go up, giving nothing over to UVG, but then it's just one play into the side lane. Numi finding a turnaround play in the 1v1, picking up a solo kill. And if this game goes anything like last game, this is a good sign if you're a UVG fan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Yomi already going to be able to pick up quite a bit of gold early on, but literally nothing has changed from that last game, right? This first dragon, this second dragon here is where we might see a bit of a change. Maybe we see a fight early on for this one, but it seems like UVG are more than happy to just give it over and say, hey, what if we just play for another 7 dragon game, right? In the meantime, Ballslap's just going to continue to throw out the Spirit Orbs, just going to get so much damage off in that mid lane. No Name keeping up in farm this time around, you know, not too far behind, just behind in the kills. But top lane is where most of the question marks are going to be for the side of Literal Monkeys, as TLP's just struggling to deal with this Gwen.
Yeah, and I think with the priority that they've gotten in the top lane, UVG is probably going to look to turn over to a Rift Herald here and try and pick that objective up while the rest of the Monkeys members were on the bottom side. It's a late start to the objective, and they don't have Numi helping out on it, so the take will be a little slow as Super Mega Death Rocket is lining up. It will tag, but it won't find the kill. It's just going to give vision that, in fact, that Rift Herald is going over.
Yeah, in the meantime, first turret going to be going over to Literal Monkeys. Who cares about the Rift Herald when you've got the tower damage? Now, I'll answer that question myself. It's the Ziggs. The Ziggs is the one who cares, right?
Yeah.
So Swamplight down here going to just be getting minions, but once that Rift Herald goes down, we can start that cash money composition that I was talking about last game, ready, right? But in the meantime, Swamplight in a little bit of trouble.
Charm's going to land on the BBL, going to get stunned up and suppressed into the wall. The Glacial Fissure used for a bit of disengage. There's No Name, doesn't have a ton of damage available to them just yet, just that collector inventory. Teleport coming through, though, from Numi. The turnaround is there. There's that Melio ulti being used just for a bit of disengage, and the rest of the members of Monkeys are forced to just run away from the play off of what looked like a potential pick into BBL Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, BBL Jersey not necessarily in the greatest position to start that one off, but going to be more than happy with how things ended up. You know, still going to be doing fine. The ultimate burned off of Pink Penguin, and so much running away from the Literal Monkeys here, and a tower going down to UVG, almost getting that mid tower as well.
Yeah, it will be the tower going over in the top side, though, as those plates did fall off, so Notorious TLP with the teleport out from Numi, getting some free time to hit up on that turret, but now stuck in a 1 versus 2, and when becomes landing won't land, so this might actually just be the escape for Jax, as the Leaf Strike over the... No, not a Leaf Strike, I think the ward was out of range, has to lose their flash over the wall. I'm sorry, TLP, but everybody did, in fact, see that one.
Yeah, that one's gonna get immortalized yesterday as TLP, you know, just got the ward not quite in the right spot, but the moment that this Triforce comes online for TLP, things should be looking up for the Jax, right? Ichinumi is in a very, very good position, but this time around, it is the Literal Monkeys who have the late game win condition. Jax hitting level 16 is nothing to scoff at, right? But in the meantime, Gwen is still scaling up that team fight goddess. So team fight versus split push is the name of the game. So Literal Monkeys have to play so well around these objectives to make sure that they do give time over for their Jax to get these towers on the side.
Yeah, there's definitely potential for team fights, I think, from Monkeys. They do have the Skarner and the Ahri who can accelerate, as we've got Spirit Rush being used on the bottom side, Flash traded out, the Crescent Guard not able to save his mid laners. Genghis Khan is going to try and get the trade back. That last Spirit Rush already used. The Wind Becomes Lightning is going to land, dash forward, lands that last auto, picked up the kills. Now Ichinumi stuck in a 1 versus 2 up here in the top side. Tori's TLP trying to get that leap strike in for the stun, but now it's just the needlework, getting a lot of work done for Ichinumi into this 1 versus 2. The healing's there, but the slows, the crowd control is just a little bit too much. TLP will finally chase that one down and pick up their third.
Yeah, and there's that Triforce coming in clutch. Like I was saying, Brady, once the Jax has Triforce is when things are going to start looking pretty dang good in this side lane, right? The Gwen can scale up all she wants, but she's always going to be there for team fights. That's why you pick this champion, because she's so unbelievably good in these team fights. The side lanes, sure, she can do work in the side lanes, but that's Jax's main focus. That's his job. That's why he's here. So that way you always have to be thinking about who's going to deal with this split pushing monster. Right, so now Ichinumi, yes, you got that early lead. Yes, you got all that gold. Where are you going to use it outside of a team fight? If TLP drags Ichinumi out into a side lane, TLP's already succeeded. It doesn't matter if he's winning that 1v1.
Red, give a little bit of extra vision control down. This dragon is spawning in about 20 seconds. It is not a mountain dragon. Your eyes are, in fact, deceiving you. The overlay, you know, Riot Games, it's a small indie company. They can't exactly get every icon to pop up exactly the way they want it to. It is a Chemtech Rift. It is a Chemtech dragon that the teams are going to be fighting over. Literal Monkeys want to get to that soul point, and UVG trying to play to stop them. But right now, it's a bit of a split 3v4. Swamplight forced away off the back of that zap from Yomi, but now the 4v4 is going to start in earnest. BBL Drizzy is going to get locked up, suppressed down as General Genghis Khan trying to get some damage down under this front line, but it's another huge impale from Singular Bread. BBL Drizzy is the first to fall. The teleport into the back line from No Name, but it's a charm again. Ball Slap just not letting the Corki play the game. Yomi in the meantime is absolutely just going to chase down Swamplight under tower. A little bit accurate, is going to tank up a tower shot there, but has the Melia behind him, so it absolutely does not care. And it's a huge team fight win for the Literal Monkeys.
Yeah, and that team fight completely split off into two separate sides. One side is, you know, Literal Monkeys bot lane versus the world, and the other side is their top half of the map just doing absolute damage to Ichinumi, to No Name, right? There's just so little that UVG were able to do because they weren't able to get all 5 pieces of Exodia together, right? If you get the split push going, if you get each piece just separated from one another, it's hard to make things work. And right here, right, it's everyone trying to collapse onto Literal Monkeys. But in the end, No Name just does not have the ability to get onto Yomi. And Yomi's just free hitting again and again, and Ball Slap is not someone you can ignore. Look at this Ahri damage. Look at that Jax damage. And the whole entire time, Yomi is at full health.
Yeah, just running past Genghis Khan actually to try and get damage down onto Swamplight. It feels a little bit disrespectful, but this is how strong the Jinx is currently. Already 2-0-4, has 2.5 items in inventory. This is where you want your hyper carry to be, and like you mentioned, Ball Slap getting a lot of work down onto the backline, but I think Yomi and Ball Slap are the two targets that have to be the priority here for UVG, and you can't take another split team fight like that. When you get split up, you're just giving Skarner better and better juicy targets to take.
As you were saying, Brady, right? Yomi and Ball Slap, two of the #1 targets that UVG have to be focusing on. It's pretty dang hard to focus on two targets when they're on completely opposite sides of the fight. The entire fight started with UVG collapsing in onto literal monkeys, and they're just gonna hop through the jungle and separate out, and all of a sudden you have to decide who to focus. Might be a matter of split comms, might be a matter of split decisions, but Ultraviolet Gaming had to find a way how to really focus down one person at a time with all 5 members of their team.
Yeah, it's gold leads in every single part of the map. There is nowhere even close in terms of gold differential right now. There comes to a certain point in every game where, as a team, when you're this far behind, you obviously they can't see the gold that we can, but they can see the objective that is on the map. They know that they are not feeling comfortable in this current spot in the game. You have to play more around, okay, what sort of mistakes are our opponents going to make? How can we punish that, and how can we look to bring ourselves back instead of trying to make proactive plays? I call it, instead of you trying to play to win, it's watching for your opponents playing to lose.
Right? I mean, it's one of those moments where you can't just try to slow the game down. You can't just be like, oh, well, what if we scale eventually? No. You've gone past that point. You're down so much gold, you're down so much experience, so many items, right? That the biggest question here is, what can you do to throw a wrench into how the game's currently going? Because in League of Legends, the rich just keep getting richer. You can't just let things lie as they are.
Yeah, not only in League of Legends, but you can't just keep playing the standard game here. Monkeys have a composition with good scaling. The Ahri will fall off eventually. She's going to stop doing as much one-shot damage. But you're looking down the barrel of a Jinx and a Jax. These champions are scaling machines. They are happy to play for the late game. And yeah, you've got your Ziggs that's going to be pretty strong in the late game. Yeah, you got your Gwen, who wants to get to like 3.5, 4 items to be a menace in the team fights in the side lanes. But can they match up versus the Jinx and the Jax? I think the answer is no, especially when they're already accelerated this far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, answer's most certainly no, because look at the items on Atronumi and TLP, right? This Gwen was ahead for so long, and one of the big things about Gwen is actually that she gets less out of her first item than I would argue most top laners, right? If you're going to go for the Rift Maker, once you finish that Rift Maker, you're probably going to actually be losing out on the 1v1s in those first few run-throughs, right? Now, the moment you finish that Nashor's Tooth, then you become a real champion. You can just start tearing through team fights. It's great. That's when you really, really want to be grouping. And then if you decide to pick up Azonias or something like that on top of that, is when it's like, oh yeah, I've gone from I want to group to I am a god, let's group, we're winning this fight, right?
Yeah.
Atronumi got that Rift Maker so long ago. TLP was sitting on components for Triforce when Atronumi was sitting on components for Nashor's Tooth. TLP finished the Bork before Atronumi somehow. I mean, just don't look at those 5 kills. We have no clue how it could be possible that he finished that first.
It sure is a mystery, yeah.
It truly is. But the point being, TLP has gone from incredibly behind on the Jax that should be winning in the counter pick to pretty decently far ahead, to the point where I would not be surprised to see Atronumi truly struggle in these side lanes against the Jax. And now we really have the dichotomy of split push versus team fight.
Yeah, so either person's going to get over the wall to look for a little bit of pressure into Swamplight, will not be able to force anything out. I think actually, no, Swamplight did lose a flash there. As we feel Drizzy looking for an engage here on the team fight, but it's just going to get blown up before they can even get in. The Impale will miss, but now it's Ball Slap trying to get some damage down to the backline with the Spirit Rush. Here comes Atronumi with that Needlework. They're trying to get the damage on Naomi. They're trying to find it, but Genghis is the one who's one shot. Atronumi soon to follow after. They do manage to find Ball Slap on the backline, but they spent too much time dealing with the mosquito that is Ahri, as Jax and Jinx are untouched and ready to party.
Yeah, beautiful aggro tanking coming in from Ball Slap. Honestly, I would love to just see Azonia's picked up for this Ahri, because there's just so much work for that, and the fight's not over, apparently.
Yeah, goodbye, No Name. You got to play this corner game. That was a little close for comfort on that bouncing bomb, as Singular Red did walk away to try and keep the Corki out of the pit, but the dragon is secured by Yomi, which means it is Chemtech Soul for the literal monkeys.
Yeah, Chemtech Soul for the literal monkeys, and not only that, right, these fights are looking so good for literal monkeys against the team fight composition, right? Genghis Khan and Atronumi are constantly running in that front line, trying to make something work, and No Name and Swamplight are just never quite in the right positions to follow up. There's so little follow-up damage for these two that it's essentially a 2v4 when they run in, because, you know, Ball Slap is on that backline. Look at this. Ari just spear rushing in, getting BBL Drizzy, and No Name and Swamplight are turned around onto the Ari. That's cool. Your frontliners are dead.
Yeah, it was a valiant attempt from Atronumi and Genghis Khan to get onto the backline to put pressure onto Yomi, try and get that extra damage down, but without Swamplight, without No Name, and especially the fact that BBL Drizzy was already dead before the play started, you just don't have the pressure. And hey, speaking of BBL Drizzy being dead, caught out in isolation once again, and there is no divine intervention for you. It's only damnation as Ball Slap will find their 6th kill of the game.
At this point, the only intervention that we'll be seeing is an intervention from BBL Drizzy's team and the Fog of War, because this player has just been getting caught out again and again in these rough positions, just doesn't quite have the backup needed for these vision plays. In the meantime, it's going to be another Baron going over to literal monkeys here, and there's just so little that Ultraviolet Gaming seem to be able to do outside of just clearing these waves, right? So much of their front line gets spent trying to dive into that back line, while Ball Slap does incredible work with that aggro tanking, right? You know, you just dash into that back line, you do just enough damage that you cannot ignore the Ari. And because of that, the Jax, the Jinx, the Skarner get to do everything that they want to. And Milio means that Jinx doesn't just get to do what she wants. Jinx gets to do anything that the team wants.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about Game 3, if this game does continue in this trajectory, if Monkeys do take it home and bring us to Game 3, I have to be thinking about what changes in the draft, because it feels like a very similar draft plan to they had in Game 1, and granted, the early game didn't go well there either, but they had their advantages that they played through in that game. They were able to pull a comeback. They were able to play through some advantages they had. But for the meantime, now in this game 2, something has gone wrong. Something went differently in that early game where they couldn't find those advantages. They couldn't find the side lane plays. They don't have that consistent pale carry to play through. And I wonder if it means some sort of drastic draft change coming into game number 3.
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure what it is that we're going to see, right? Because it's all a matter of preference, right? How much can your teammates play? What can your players actually make work, etc., right? But I'd honestly like to see a little bit of drop-off in terms of the Ziggs priority, right? It's not that the Ziggs is bad. It's not like Swamplight can't do anything. But it's more that Swamp-Light's not getting nearly as much done here. Okay, Ball Slap going a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, a little aggressive on the Spirit Rush, looking for some damage down on the Swamp-Light. Doesn't manage to find it, does get punished in the end. A little bit over-aggressive, but still finding that side lane turret. They're just continuing to push their advantages. And yeah, it's just rough. Like, the wave clear from Swamp-Light can be good if they can make it to the wave, but through the Baron buffs, it just feels so minimal, and I like the idea of putting your bottom lane carry on something that isn't just a standard AD carry, but I was talking about it before the game. This is the season of crit ADCs. People like Caitlyn, like Jinx are thriving. I would love to see what this UVG composition can do with a little bit more of a standard draft.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I will note, though, so it's not like the Ziggs is bad. What Ziggs really does bring to this composition, though, is the follow-up damage. But you're not going to be getting nearly as free follow-ups if you don't have the Nocturne that we had in game number 1. That Paranoia did so much for breaking up the communications on the side of literal monkeys, right? Swamplight got to land so many, huge Inferno bombs and No Name got to land so many of these incredible pop blossoms because Genghis Khan would pull the trigger at the right time with these paranoias, right? So honestly, I'd love to see more focus onto a champion like Nocturne, right? Something that really breaks apart the amount of cohesion that Literal Monkeys has, so that way you don't really have the same amount of, 5v5 easy back and forth, honesty, I guess would be the way to put it.
Yeah, but for now, is Monkeys maintaining control of this game too? Like we said, they had that advantage in game one, but they just fell apart in some ways. They made some less than stellar calls in the side lanes. The team fights didn't go their way. The paranoias, like you called out, some great plays from UVG finding it, but this UVG composition doesn't have that same tools. Like, the Xin Crescent Guard is great if he's ahead, but if you're not ahead, it's not going to find you very much value. And BBL Drizzy, you don't have a KO behind you. You can't just be face-checking. Your jungle, it's not your jungle anymore. This map belongs to the Monkeys.
Yeah, it's so difficult to make that work out, right? I mean, BBL Jersey wants to get the vision down, wants to make sure that, this jungle isn't just a death trap, but Literal Monkeys are there way earlier. I mean, more than a minute before the dragon spawns, they already had all that vision set up and flash in.
It's looking for a 50-50. They got it! Ziggs gets the steal off the Leandry's Brox. They'll manage to take the Elder Dragon. Yobi will pick up the kill in response, but losing one member for an Elder Dragon, you take that W every time.
Yeah, I mean, Baron's not up for quite a while, so there's essentially nothing that they can do to pick that one up, and that's not what I would call a game-winning play from Genghis Khan, but there's absolutely a game-saving play, right? The game doesn't instantly end now that, Literal Monkeys don't have the Elder to deal with. BBL Drizzy trying to make an in here.
Ball slap getting very low. Has to be cleansed away from. The needlework won't manage to find its last little mark there.
Oh!
On the Elder Dragon ticking, the Andrew's burn, tick, boom! Bind, Swamp Light! Onto the kill on the ball slap.
Oh, baby. I was calling it a game-saving play. Maybe it does turn into a game-winning play here. Swamp Light with so much damage on the Zig, so much burn with that Elder Drag, and now so much tower damage. Should just be an auto and a satchel charge, and there it goes.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was calling out potential game 3 situations, like UG, like, hey, what are you thinking about for draft next game? But with an Elder Dragon steal, suddenly the map, I'm not going to say it belongs to them. The gold lead's still heavily in favor of the Monkeys. The item lead's still in their favor. And I think if they can make it back to try and contest this Baron, there's a possibility that they can just shut the game out. But it's a little risky looking to try and take a Baron in the face of an Elder. I think it's just gone.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, okay, so this game, I gotta say it. This game was looking lights out. UVG were essentially just done and over with. Like, now that Literal Monkeys have the Infinity Edge on Jinx, it's another one of those moments where it's like, oh yeah, it's just over. That it just works that way. Right? That's what we thought last game. That's when there was a moment where we said, oh, well, we might be looking at a perfect game here. Meanwhile, UVG always finding some way how to make the miracle happen. Now, let's watch this one again. Genghis Khan flashes in, beautiful Crescent Guard to knock away the Skarner. And it becomes so difficult there for Bread to get into there in time. And a beautifully timed smite to mean that that Elder Dragon goes straight into UVG's pockets.
BBL Drizzy looking for an engage off of this Glacial Fissure. I think it's a bit hopeful as Eternumi is going to try and get some needlework work in now. It's a 2-man impale onto the backline, but it's Pain Penguin traded immediately for Genghis Khan, but Yomi, look at Yomi, still free hitting on this Jinx. There's just not enough pressure on the pig. It's a double kill for the Jinx. Singular Bread's gonna find Swamp Knight as well with Ball Slap just coming in to clean up. And UVG had a ray of hope, but it's immediately snapped back shut by the Monkey.
Yeah, and just for a short moment, I wanted to believe Brady, but Literal Monkeys were playing so unbelievably cleanly this game, and this time around, they're going to be able to seal it out. A beautiful charm from Ball Slap to fully finish this one out. And game 3, here we come.
Yep, UVG again. They had that ray of hope. They had that moment on the Elder Seal, like, hey, we've got Elder, we've got Baron, we're coming back. But just again, a hopeful engage, a little bit of an overforce means that Monkeys immediately clap back, take the fight, take the win, and push us to game 3.
Yeah, and as always, Yomi played that game so well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea how many times Yomi died in the last game. This time, not a single one. Literal perfect KDA on that Jinx. Most damage in the game. Literally beating out Ziggs. And let me tell you, beating out Ziggs in terms of damage is so hard, especially with a burn damage Ziggs who's just constantly poking and poking and poking. Yomi, on the other hand, just constantly able to get those autos off, constantly in the right place at the right time. In game number 3, now we've got full ban capability. I don't think we're seeing that Jinx again.
Yeah, something has to change here for UVG. These early games have just been not in the right spot. I know I talked to the coach before the game. A lot of the draft focus was going to be on the bottom side, trying to pressure Yomi, but I'm going to be honest, in terms of gameplay, we haven't really seen it. It feels like Yomi and Ping Peng would have been free to just kind of play their laning phases however they want. Play aggressively, play defensively, scale up, or play the aggro Kais and Nautilus matchup. Again, just playing for what they want. And I think if you're going to look to pressure this bottom side, you have to look for something that isn't just the wave-pushing power of Ziggs. As good as that pick is, if that's your draft strategy, something's got to change.
Yeah, something's got to change, whether or not you play around it differently, whether or not you pick something different. But the one thing I don't want you changing is the channel. Don't go anywhere, because game number 3 is going to be a banger.
Sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow, moving with the motion, following the light that sets me still alone. Since you left me, nothing has been the same. There's no time for regret, but I remember how I slept in your chest. I want to forget it, take a breath and leave you away, away. But it's not that easy, 'cause you make me miss you again, again.
thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here for our final game of the night. It has been a hell of a matchup here between the literal monkeys and UVG, but it all comes to a head in this game number 3.
I mean, I gotta say it. This team is so unbelievably poorly named. They're called literal monkeys, but so much of their early game play has actually been really clean.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So much of their play is, what if we just one lane? What if we just always had someone in the right place at the right time to make sure that any real 1v1 wins that the opponents have just turn into 2v1 ganks, right? A lot of times they're getting out of these fights with tiny slivers of help. And I would love to see some more of that clean play, but this time maybe minus the mid-game throwing.
Yeah, it seems to be a common denominator throughout the series that something goes wrong in the mid game for either one of these teams. Either somebody's out of position or somebody gets caught or a mistake is punished in some way, and the other team immediately screams to a lead. In game number 1, it was UVG punishing literal monkeys, and in game number 2, it was the monkeys maintaining that lead, punishing UVG on every step they took.
Yeah, and now without the Kale, it's going to be a big question as to what exactly does UVG have in terms of their DPS. Now, one thing that the two of us were having a conversation about off broadcast was this Ziggs, right? So Ziggs as a champion, not a bad bot laner. And yes,
all.
it is the age of the crit 80 carry, but you can still make Ziggs work. Now, the thing is, in order to make Ziggs work, the reason why Ziggs was so popular before wasn't just because he has follow-up damage, was because he has tower taking out the wazoo, and into some of these crit 80 carries that take a while to get scaled up, it's kind of difficult for them to get past someone who has as much wave clear as Ziggs, right? So, because of that, you pair Ziggs with something that's strong in that 2v2 lane, you bring your jungler bot, you take the full tower, you switch over to top lane, you take a bunch more tower plates, probably take the full tower because enemy top laner probably doesn't have tons of wave clear, and then you move it over to mid, take a bunch more tower plates. It's all about moving that Ziggs around places. Ziggs is your position 1. Ziggs is your early win condition, but that's not why this team has been picking Ziggs. UVG's been picking Ziggs for follow-up damage, which with the Nocturne went incredible. But once the Nocturne's off the table, I don't know if it really matters to have that much prio on it.
Yeah, there's only so much that you can do with that Ziggs, and the amount of damage you can pump out is good, but if you don't have that consistent frontline, that consistent engage, then you don't really have as much value out of that Ziggs, especially if you're not, something else we were talking about, is playing through this bottom lane. Yomi has been having an incredible series, even in their loss, stacking up the damage, stacking up the carry points, just playing out of their mind. I think I've seen in Twitch chat a couple of times, Yomi 1v9, and I can't fully disagree. I do think the rest of the monkeys are playing well, but Yomi is playing at another level currently. And I think as long as UVG wants to win this game 3, it's got to be through this bottom lane. You have to punish Yomi early. You've got to get them not only off of comfort, but you've got to put your AD carry in a position where they can take them down and start to carry the game away.
At the very least, I want to see some things change in the early game from the side of the way how UVG plays around things. Because a lot of the time, Genghis Khan, obviously not a bad jungler, right? I mean, gets the smites in the right spots, gets into the right places at the right times, but doesn't do anything early before level 6. And honestly, with how volatile some of these lanes are, I think we might be needing to see some of that early pressure from Genghis Khan. We essentially didn't see much of any of it on that Shinzao, despite Shinzao being that early game powerhouse. On a champion like Nocturne, it works incredible. On a champion like Shin, maybe not quite the playstyle you're looking for.
Yeah, I think the main point here that we're talking about is something has to change in the draft. There has to be some shake up from UVG if they want to take this home, because I think the game 1 win, it did start off of a miracle play from No Name on that Nico. It wasn't like they were playing consistently good in the early game and were coming to a very decisive victory. They had to find those miracle engages, those insane plays that they needed to find. They couldn't just say, hey, we're going to find, consistent wins. We're going to play through side lane. We're going to play slow. Because if they did, that would have been Monkey's game to win, which is what we saw in game number 2. Monkeys played slow. They played consistently. They punished the picks. I think BBL Jersey especially just out of position so often, leading to a lot of 4v5 situations for their team. I know you need the vision, but you also need to be in spots where your team can support you if you're going to be finding that vision. So UVG, something's got to change coming into this next game. And for the Monkeys, just keep playing the same way you're doing. You've got your consistent early games. You've got your mid and late game. After that game 1 slip up, you have not taken your foot off the gas. And if they continue the momentum coming into this game 3, it's going to be their series.
Yeah, honestly, one thing that we could also look at, like I said, something needs to change. There's so many things that could change from either side. Now, one thing has been consistent for the side of UVG. Aethernumi's been playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
So with Aeternumi consistently getting that, early lead into TLP, maybe UVG picks up something to try to facilitate that, right? Gwen doing well usually means that Gwen can take over team fights. Didn't quite pan out that game because you didn't have the consistent follow-up damage there, right? So either you pick a more, independent top laner, or you pick up more things to facilitate that kind of hyper carry through that top lane, right? It's all a matter of how it is you want to play it and who is your win condition? Who is your position one?
Yeah, it's difficult to both play through a carry top laner while also trying to punish the bottom lane. They're on opposite sides of the map. You can't just have, like, your jungler in two places at once. If you're going to play through top lane, you're going to play for that winning side lane, you've got to look to gank them consistently, and then maybe you can play something like Ziggs Braum, or even like Ziggs Seraphine, Ziggs Ashe, play for a little bit more passive bottom lane, wave clear and stay safe under tower, just don't play that aggressive. But if you want to punish Yomi on these picks, if you want to play through the bottom side, Numi might have to play weak side. You might have to be on less of a hyper carry and more of a bruiser, a juggernaut, maybe even a tank, depending on the situation.
Oh boy. Yeah, but speaking, with that being said, here comes the hyper carry. Jinx blue side. First pick, you cannot get away from it as much as you try. But here we go. All right, perfect. So that was step number 1 of the plan that we mentioned earlier. Nocturne was a huge reason as to why UVG was able to get some of those miracle plays earlier. So now that Nocturne is on the table...
I like this.
Oh my god.
It's all
They're listening to the cast.
They are obviously listening to us because we are the arbiters of truth here.
Of course, that's totally what it is.
I do love this Nautilus, not only as a pick for BBL Jersey, because obviously they want to play aggressive, wants to be in the face of the enemy and looking to make plays happen. Braum isn't exactly the facilitator for that. You want to be on a more aggressive hook champion, especially into someone like Jinx. This is telling me that they want to play for this bottom lane. They're trying to punish Yomi on this Jinx. The Lulu's a good pick to try and facilitate Jinx and get her to safety, but Nautilus is going to feast in a lane like this.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't hate the Ziggs pickup here. I mean, if they do decide, if Little Monkeys do decide to ban away the Ziggs, I wouldn't hate that, right? Because so much of this turns into, this is actually a perfect composition for a Ziggs AP carry, right?
Yeah.
Whether you pick up Ziggs, you pick up Jhin, just someone who's able to put out lots of consistent damage or utility from the backline. So you can pick up Jhin, you can pick up Ashe, right?
Seraphine.
Just someone. Yeah, Seraphine even. Right?
Seraphine, I think, would be so insane for this UVG composition, actually. It enables the Nautilus to play aggressively with all that shielding and healing alongside the ultimates just to guarantee. You have the Nocturne to follow up afterwards. You have the Nico Nocturne combo that we were talking about in Game 1. But now with no Ashe, no Ziggs, I'm praying for a Seraphine pick here.
I could see Senna.
Senna also wouldn't be bad, but that's, Malzahar?
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing that Malzahar in that bot lane. And I will say, TLP being thrown onto the Ornn does tell us, like, hey, Little Monkeys is like, you know what? I'm sorry, TLP. It's been rough. We've been giving you counter pick, but you're on Ornn duty, right?
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be the Shen jungle. Ornn jungle is not exactly something we see too much of.
Yeah, we have a River Shen here. I'm actually
But with the Ornn slapped in blind, I would love to see... I was about to say a Camila Fiora, and here we go. All right, Numi on another one of those hyper carries, and this one is a matter of Numi and 4 champions that can absolutely back up that Camille.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this Malzahar. I think it is just mages are the comfort for Swamp Light, but if mages are your comfort, I'm gonna be real. Seraphine's right there. She's so good right now, criminally underplayed, criminally underutilized. I would have picked her up there, but hey, that's why we're up here and they're down there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it works out. I mean, I will say, right, when I was looking at some of these OPGGs, the person I was expecting to have more of that, I guess, mage, lean was BBL Drizzy, right? Someone who has played a ton of mid lane in the OPGG as far as that's concerned. Said, we're seeing a lot more Swamp Light cooking. I honestly don't hate the Malzahar here. It's just a question as to what does this bring to the table that other champs don't necessarily do.
Yeah, that is the question that has to be answered here in this game number 3, alongside the question of who's taking home their first win here in the Titan Esports Divinity League.
Yeah. Now, one thing that it absolutely does do is make sure Yomi doesn't get to play the game. I don't care if you got cleanse. Malzahar ulti does not care. Nether Grasp will just hold on to you for absolutely forever. And you're not going to be able to cleanse Depth Charge either. I mean, we've got Nico ult, we've got Camille ult, we've got every ulti in the game that's going to be thrown directly at Yomi. So, I mean, I saw someone earlier say, protect the president versus assassinate the president compositions, and that's absolutely what these are.
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of how much can this team protect the president. And I will say, Literal Monkeys has the protect the president comp. That is the whole point of River Shen. You're not here for like early game ganks. You're not here for your dueling prowess. As much as Shen can be an early game duelist, you're here to say, hey, if you dive my Jinx in the backline, I'm gonna get the Shen ulti off on her. But the problem with that is the Nocturne ulti already counters the Shen pick. You can't ult on your teammate if you can't see them. So unless Singular Bread is standing quite literally right on top of Yomi, that defensive tool won't be available during the paranoia.
Yeah, honestly, there's a few things that you could do in order to like deal with that. I would be very surprised to see some kind of, you know, never mind. I was gonna say like maybe we see like some crazy Banshee's Veil tech or something like that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Cooking is fun, but sometimes you don't really need to cook and you can just, you know, play the game normally. Speaking of which, normal trades in this bot lane as far as Malzahar bot lane goes.
Yeah, I mean, they get the combo off on it to Pink Penguin, but, you know, without an AD carry that can provide that consistent follow-up DPS, you're not going to be able to find a lethal there, as Eternumi going to get a decent chunk there versus TLP. I will say, in the early game, before Eternumi has access to that Triforce or that Ravenous Hydra, there does have to be a certain amount of respect given over to the Ornn. His early game damage is deceptively high off of these Brittle procs and the Grass procs, as we can already see there. Aggressive trading back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah, and I love the hybrid shield from Camille. I mean, it's just really, really nice to see when things change up in this matchup, right? Ornn, one of those champions that just does so much hybrid damage. Meanwhile, in this bot lane, so much poke going on to Pink Penguin. Now that Pink Penguin's not on the Nautilus duty.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the game plan is going to be. Is TBL Jersey actually looking for an engager? They're going to burn the heal and the flash out of Pink Penguin in this bottom. The shielding's there, but Swamp Light wants to find this kill, wants to finish it off, but it's Yomi doing more damage. That consistent damage from the ADC, flashing forward, but then all the shield, it's going to be able to stay alive. The Zap doesn't do enough damage, but now Swamp Light's the one still in trouble. The cleanse is there, but you're stuck alone in a 1 versus 3, and the kill goes over. Singular Bread picks up first blood.
Yeah, and that's a disaster for the side of UVG. The one person who's not allowed to get gold is Yomi, is what you would say in any other composition. Now, because that first blood goes over to Singular Bread, that means that this gold is going to start to get spread around a little bit. And because of that, all of a sudden, locking down one person gets more and more difficult and less effective.
Yeah, well, how this bottom lane is going to start to work out, because I think this is the disaster situation that we were worried about. Yomi getting ahead in the early game. The kill didn't go over to that AD carry, but it's that River Shen playing that bottom side early and playing, again, protect the president. Jinx is the one champion in this composition that matters. Sorry, Ball Slap. Sorry, TLP. Sorry, Pink Penguin. But this game is all about Yomi.
Yeah, meanwhile, in this top lane, we're seeing Genghis Khan get in just in time to pick up a little bit of extra farm there. And finally, we're in a situation where, you know, you're able to just relax. You're able to breathe, right? Nocturne is just going to continue to farm up, looking for that level 6. Same thing with Singular Bread after that first gank. And in the meantime, BBL Jersey going to get spotted out on a ward here. Likely shouldn't be able to see too much going on with the mid lane just yet. But honestly, we've had 2 incredible games back to back. But number 1 was just an absolute slobber knocker, back and forth, incredible comeback, and that just drains away at your mental so much.
Yeah.
Now we're all the way in game number 3. The question is, which of these teams have the most mental stamina?
Yeah, mental stamina is something I don't think it actually gets talked about very much in these esports, but Game 3 situations like this can be so draining, especially if you were on the UVG side. You had that comeback victory in Game 1, you had the momentum coming into Game 2, but you couldn't find your footing, and it was Monkeys taking that win, and now they have the momentum coming into this Game 3, and you are once again on the back foot, sitting in your computer, sitting with your teammates and saying, okay, we have to do something differently. We have to do something better. We have to be better if we're going to take home the victory.
Yeah, meanwhile in the top lane, this is the single time, I think, that TLP has actually had a farm lead into a Ternumi. Which is honestly really, really concerning, because this is the one time a team composition is built around Ternumi as that hyper carry, as that main source of damage, right? Honestly, if No Name pops off, if Ternumi pops off, as long as one of them does a lot of damage, it should be fine. But this composition was very obviously indexed towards that Camille, right? Ternumi has been the consistent point of good, just good play for the side of Ultraviolet Gaming. So not necessarily being able to rely on that in a tight Game 3 could be terrible.
Drizzy in trouble here in the bottom side river.
Oh!
Flash coming through from Singular Bread, and Ball Slap is here for the follow-up. River Shed lives up to his name. Don't step in his territory.
Yeah, Ball Slap with the Spirit Rush in to follow up as well. Everyone from the side of Literal Monkeys, as always, super, super ready to just back up their teammates. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Ball Slap and No Name.
Ooh, flashes a trade in, but it is that Pop Blossom landing. The damage coming through, and Genghis Calm off of that first ulti will find access to the map and will find a kill.
Yeah, meanwhile, top lane, we got these trades back and forth. Numi just trying to just continue to make stuff happen. But it's welcome to one of my favorite parts of League of Legends, also known as directed cam as a top lane main, right? So we're just going to constantly see this trading back and forth. There's likely going to be very little in terms of actual threat of lethal. But
I don't know, call the Forge God.
Oh, never mind.
He wants to fight it, but it's a nice Hexacle Domino off the back, but it is the stand united for Singular Bread, keeping his top laner alive. Flash for the knockup off that Searing Charge. The Bell's Breath doesn't land, but Singular Bread, 100% KP, 100% kills. The man's on fire.
Yeah, I mean, turning me into a liar immediately. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Yomi getting locked up, but still no real follow-up here. Swamplight's still very far away from doing any real damage on this Malzahar. If there's a champion that needs items, this mage is certainly one of them.
Yeah, and again, in all three of these games, the thing that has surprised me the most is if you're playing these mages in the bottom lane, opting for the less common summoner spells, these combat summoner spells, the cleanses, the barriers, instead of the teleport that we so often see when you're playing these mages. Pink Penguin, I'm not sure what happened there, but just standing in the middle of the lane means BBL Drizzy's gonna find a hook, and BBL Drizzy's gonna find a kill.
That felt like a disconnect and a half, but
yeah,
I mean, we're not getting a pause. We're not getting, a pause in gameplay. We're not getting a pause in, the game itself. So I'm guessing it's just, getting caught shopping. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe looking at another part of the map, just not paying attention to exactly where they were standing. Something we didn't mention here is the difference in objective trades happening this time around. I think for once, finally, UVG is actually getting their hands on an early objective. They get those extra 3 grubs. They're going to trade it over for that first dragon. And this is the trade that you normally see. But in these past 2 games, it's been Monkeys with every single early objective. So I'm really happy that off of the early clear and the early top lane priority, they're getting something on the map for it.
Yeah. All right. Meanwhile, in this top lane, welcome back, Directed Cam, as I wouldn't be too surprised if we see, a lot more vision being placed down from the side of TLPs, as I'm pretty sure that Monkeys are going to be looking to contest this second set of grubs, right? In the meantime, BBL Drizzy walking on up here, and Genghis Calm shouldn't be too far behind. The Paranoia is available, but Nautilus is already going in.
Flash forward. It's a nice unstoppable, but that root will still land. Call the Forge God is on, but the Hexacle Dominium is there as well. Doesn't get the dodge out this time, but they should just be able to lock down this Ornn if they want to look for the kill. But the early redemption from the River Shen coming through. Singular Bread playing for the team. That's my goat right there.
Oh my god, Redemption Shen is a doozy and a half here, but bringing it out in Game 3 is the perfect time to do so. But, alright, so everything's gonna calm down a little bit. We had a little bit of craziness going on early, but no big ultimates really committed just yet. Call of the Forge Guard is down here, but there goes the hook.
Oh, here's the Paranoia into that backline. Genghis Khan wants to get some value in. There's the Nico finding the Pop Blossom on it. His first shutdown gold going over to Numi, starting to get unlocked on this Camille. The Hexa Gold made it onto TLP, but in the meantime, look at Yomi still free hitting on this Jinx. It's a double kill over for Numi, but the health bars are so low. If you just get one more auto, flashes forward for the zap, and it's a double kill. Getting excited, picking up the triple kill is Yomi on the Jinx.
Yeah, and Yomi just free hitting for such a long time. As always, just flawless, just absolutely flawless movement from the Jinx. Flawless positioning, and still not a single death on this Jinx. 2 games back to back. This time, UVG definitely striking back with a little bit more bloodthirsty kills early on into game number 3, but 3 of those kills onto Jinx is where literal monkeys want this money, right? The more money onto this Jinx, the more they can really play around this hyper carry. And yes, Malzahar can lock the Jinx down. Yes, you can just follow up again and again with so much of this team, but Swamplight nowhere to be found in that team fight. None of that teleport shenanigans on the mages in the bot lane, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Swamplight not able to find access to the team by now. I have been doing a little bit of research over on my other monitor, just checking up on solo queue statistics, seeing who is building the River Shens and what are they building, and it seems like the almost entirely universally agreed upon first item is in fact that Redemption. Moving into the Lockgate, a lot of people are taking Hail of Blades, but Press the Attack is an option that's taken, so I'm excited to see that Singular Bread has been doing his research, has been playing the solo queue statistics, and is looking for any advantage that he can get for his team.
So, I will say, this Shen build in particular is actually something that was popularized by LS, and most people were, LS was saying, like, yeah, just go with the Hail of Blade, so that way you can go with the ultimate Hunter, if I remember correctly, but basically this is something that's actually been very, very well researched, so I'm pretty excited to see it come out on stage here. I wouldn't be too surprised to see it come out in, maybe a bigger stage, but in the meantime, game number 3 is about as big of a stage as you could ask for.
Yeah, show me Canyon in the LCK playing the River Shen with the Redemption first. Give me that and I'll be a happy lady, but for now, we are still here in the Titan Esports Divinity League, as now with Eternity finally having that Triforce active, the trades are now, I think, going to be 100% in their favor. As you can see, TLP, yeah, struggling a little bit, has a lot of armor and inventory, but Camille True Damage, it turns out, doesn't really care about armor.
Yeah, not too much here, but in the meantime, it's just going to be trade on trade, and we said it once, said it again. Directed Cam as a top lane main.
Everybody bullies each other in top lane. There's constant trades as Eternity is going to take a tower shot there. A little bit spiciness on there, trying to get some fancy shenanigans going off that hookshot wall dive. But now with the bottom side priority going over in favor of Literal Monkeys, it means that they should just be able to take this dragon, I think, essentially at their leisure.
Yeah, in the meantime, I don't know if Little Monkeys are actually going to be committing for this dragon. As we've seen before, they're very, very keen on stacking up these early dragons and just forcing UVG to fight them on Dragon 3, on Dragon 4, right? Whereas UVG, when they do get the ability to play for these early dragons, they usually just opt for more laning, right? Nothing too crazy.
Poke in from BBL Jersey, the death charge as well, but it's a 4 versus 2. I don't think they want to engage on this. Here comes that Redemption down one of the backline, just keeping them all so healthy. The Pop Blossoms here, it's on to 4. There's the Nocturne, there's the Malzahar Nethergrass as well. Ball slap, one more auto attack comes through. No Name's gonna pick up a double kill. In the meantime, on the top side, Ace are gonna be forced to flash away, but the Orin Collect comes through. It's a solo kill for TLP in the losing bastion, but in the meantime, Singular Bread on the bottom side side, still fighting away down here, but the tick, tick, tick of the space damage comes through. Swamp Light finding that kill. It's UVG winning on the bottom side, but it's Monkeys with DLP finding a solo kill in top.
And once again, Yomi, the focal point of these fights, a beautiful Pop Blossom from No Name. That Paranoia didn't necessarily look like the greatest beginning, but Genghis Khan got on into that backline, got a lot of people focused on top of him, and No Name, with that Pop Blossom, just locks up so many people. And we can see it right here. Depth charge onto 2. Paranoia means that the team's a little bit separated out there. Just goes on into that backline. Here comes the Pop Blossom onto all of them, and the suppression from Swamp Light to make sure Yomi doesn't just get to reset. Beautiful stuff from the side of, UVG there. Another great solo kill from TLP. I'm sure that feels absolutely cathartic. But in the meantime, your team's losing on the other side of the map. This feels like the flip side of what we're used to seeing between these two.
Yeah, I wonder if that spells a concern here for Literal Monkeys as the gold lead is in favor of UVG. Granted, one of the champions on this monkey side is pretty low economy, as we see him now up here on the top side of the map. Singular Bread trying to make a play down here, but Atonumi wants that re-engage. They've got the lock, and they've got their own redemption coming in. Singular Bread is dead before it lands. Atonumi executes it with the Hextech damage.
Yeah, Singular Bread asks for redemption, will not receive it, as TLP just going to walk on out of there as the Herald goes down once again. UVG have a very fun composition that they've cooked up, and man, has it been working out. It's strange to see that the focal point of their composition, at least initially what it seemed like would be the focal point of their composition, has not been the Camille. Instead, Aternumi's just looking to keep TLP in this side lane, which honestly works pretty dang well for the comp as a whole, as No Name, as we've seen before, has been getting these ridiculous Pop Blossoms on the entirety of Literal Monkeys.
Yeah. Again, I think this starts to spell concern if you're a Literal Monkeys fan, because you have this Protect the President composition. Yomi has been playing excellently throughout this series, but it feels like UVG is suddenly starting to turn on the gas. They have Aternui playing super well in the side lane, but No Name and Genghis Khan again on this combo that won them game number 1, and it seems like a combo they're super happy to play out anytime they can.
Yeah, I mean, oh my god.
Nocturne Paranoia. It's TLP in the side lane. The Call of the Forge God will not find it. It's a Stand United being used here. I don't know if they're going to be able to find much value, but Singular Bread's going to try and save his top laner, or at the very least make it a 1-for-1, but the redemption is just a little bit too late, and Genghis Khan is going to be able to kite this one out. Aeternumi now getting the damage down onto Singular Bread. I don't know if they want to take a 1v1, but they're going to keep going for it, as now BBL Jersey caught on the rotate. Ball Slap will be able to find that kill, and Aeternumi couldn't find the damage onto Singular Bread. The Super Mega Death Rocket puts Aeternumi down to 1 HP, and Ball Slap with the Spirit Rush will be able to find the damage and take down the Camille.
Yeah, it was looking so good for UEG for so long until that's the power of the Shen, right? You come in at the last second. Any 1v1 is not a true 1v1. Instead, you've got the entirety of the enemy team to deal with. Literal Monkeys doing what they do best, as working together as a team, always trying to make sure that the plays of UVG don't quite work out as they had planned. Every single one of these aggressive plays has been getting shut down again and again. The one time where they really start to falter, though, is these huge team fights where you have No Name somehow getting these ridiculous Pop Blossoms just again and again. I'm surprised we're seeing it in Game 3, but there's so many things to ban. I don't blame Literal Monkeys for letting it through.
Yeah, something had to be let through, the draft priority changing. I think away from that Ziggs, a big deal for UVG getting their hands on this combo that worked so well for them in Game 1 is Swamp Light gotta be careful. Had the spell shield on, but still respecting the use of that smite, is gonna be able to flash away and keep themselves safe for now, but with the Baron spawning up and with the Dragon coming up soon, just a bit of scuffles here and there. Nobody's going for any lethals on an Ornn or a Nautilus this early on into the game.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we're just going to be seeing a lot more setup around this dragon. It is just going to be second Drake for either of these teams, so we might not see too much, but never mind, we're seeing a lot.
Looking for an engage, but it's the call of the Ford gone onto that front line. Genghis Khan looking for the engage, but Yomi's still untouched on that back line. The Pop Blossom is good, but the carry's still alive in the back line. The Stadium United shields, the Lulu shields, the suppression's coming through. Can they finally find the damage? They do! They shut down the Jinx! Aeternumi free firing in this backline on this Camille, getting the hook shots, the wall dives, the precision protocols into the damage of the enemy team. Notorious TLP is the last one to fall for Monkeys as Ball Slap escapes with their life, but it's a huge team fight win for UVG.
And Yomi handed his first death on the Jinx in this entire series. The Nethergrass from Swamp Light in the perfect place at the perfect time. There's so much that was spent trying to keep this Jinx alive. The Call of the Forged God, the Shen ultimate, the Lulu ultimate, like absolutely everything, and the kitchen sink thrown in, but you can't throw a kitchen sink at someone to make them feel better. Like, look at this. Just Pop Blossom, Paranoia, the Camille Ultimatum, everything thrown into the backline, and then here we go. Swamp Light just walks forward and ulties, and nothing that Yomi does is going to be able to stop that from happening. And just like that, this composition works out so incredibly well, and is not something we expected to see in the slightest.
Yeah.
At least as far as this Malzahar goes. The Malzahar pick is something that the two of us had a few question marks about, but those questions have been answered.
Yeah, it's even going to force Yomi actually towards the QSS just to get away from that Malzahar ulti, but the thing that I want to point out is you can't cleanse or QSS your way out of that Hextech ultimatum, and if that lands, you're stuck taking a lot of damage from this UVG side, and I think the Camille pick is like almost showing its brilliance in multiple ways here, because not only is it a counter to Aura in the laning phase, and Aeternumi had a field day in the laning phase, as Call of the Forge God I think just used here to clear out this wave a little bit and make sure that the tower will not fall, but the ability to lock down this Jinx with no counterplay. That's a point-and-click ability that is no cleanse, no Mikhails, no QSS, no nothing. You are stuck in that Hextech ultimatum, and you have to fight your way out of that pit.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no champion in the game that would have been able to keep you alive there, barring a Tahm Kench of some kind, right? But you're not going to be picking a Tahm Kench for a Camille, super, super early on into that drafting phase. So right here, I mean, we saw it earlier with the Pro Comp score. UVG have had a pretty dang good composition to deal with Literal Monkey's comp here. And look at that, 62% chance of winning? Thanks, Pro Comps. That's crazy.
I mean, the draft is good. The Malzahar is, like we said, it's a question mark in the draft. Not only, I think, for us here on the desk, but I'm not sure it's something that the Literal Monkeys were fully prepared for coming into this series. Because, the Ziggs was a band that they threw out in that second phase, but they also threw out the Ash band. I think they're expecting Swamp Light to play a little bit more of the standard. And BBL Drizzy, my friend, you have got to position yourself better. Stuck now 1 versus 5. The slows, the knockups, the charms are going to come through, and it's a pick over to Yomi.
I mean, yeah, we've seen it once, we've seen it a billion times, and here we go. The Baron gonna get started up off of that. Actually, I think a little bit crazy of a commitment here, but we'll have to see how things actually turn out.
Teleport in from No Name to get in the area and make sure that they have access to the pit. Wards are in, the vision's available. Aeternumi has a great flank angle here. Notorious TLP did get that Masterwork upgrade on to Yomi, so some extra damage on that Kraken Slayer, but it is just going to be to peel away. They know the risk they were playing into with the Paranoia, with that Pop Blossom from No Name. They don't want to take any risky chances here.
All right, well, now that we're finally past that point, we can start actually getting a little bit more analysis down, right? Maybe we don't have the team so rudely interrupt us like they did last time. But, I mean, as we said before, right? We had quite a few question marks, right? The Ziggs was one where it was like, yeah, sure, ban away the Ziggs. This is a perfect composition for the Ziggs to be, thrown in there because it would have been great follow-up damage. But instead, we have the Malzahar here. And I know you said, Brittany, that we don't think that Literal Monkeys were prepared for the Malzahar pick. Who on this planet would have
Would have
expected
been,
a
truly.
Malzahar pick? Literally, who on this planet would have thought the Malzahar pick would have come through? This is the stuff you save for playoffs. We're bringing this out in the second set of this season, and I love every little bit of it. Right?
Yeah, my question is, if this is the kind of stuff that normally you would save for playoffs, how deep is the champion pool of Swamp Lane? How far down does this mage pool go? Are we going to see some Syndra bottom lanes? Are we going to see the Seraphine eventually? Are we going to see maybe like a tank bottom lane? I don't know, but I'm excited to see this UVG squad play for playoffs contention coming into the future.
Yeah, and if they keep playing this game out as they have been, we might actually see that, because this is going so well. They looked at the games, they recognized what was going wrong, they recognized what their win condition is, and Yomi just has not been able to free hit nearly as often in this game.
Yeah, Yomi's been under a lot more pressure. You can see that QSS in inventory to get away from the Malzahar ulti, but again, like I said, that Hextech ultimatum cannot be cleansed away as BBL is going to tank up a charm. The Paranoia is going to be popped as he continues trading in the top side. The Paranoia is not being used as an engage tool just yet, just to make sure the BBL Jersey doesn't die, but now looking for a hook. The Death Charge onto the backline. It's on the ball slap. The damage down onto Yomi, but it's not a lot. That redemption just keeping him alive, and BBL Jersey will be the sacrificial lamb as the Orb of Deception comes through. Now the Malzahar ulti down on it to the backline. It's a flash away from Yomi, but still caught by that Pop Blossom, cleansing away. QSSing away. He's alive. Itanumi is here, but can't get in range where that Hextech ultimatum will still be able to find Pink Penguin as Itanumi picks up a double kill. Victorious Steel teleports in, but it's just too little too late to call the Forge God. A siren song, a mournful call as his team is already dead, and it's No Name finding the kill. Genghis Khan survives with a sliver of HP, and it's UVG taking another fight win.
And for the first time, it's UVG who are going to be getting out on the tiniest slivers of health. They've taken Monkey's they've taken the one thing that Monkeys have been consistently doing and done it themselves. Now they're going to take the Baron. They're going to take the gold lead. They might take the series at this rate. It's so unbelievably tough for Yomi to put out damage on Jinx when you have so many things to deal with.
Yeah, so many threats from this UVG side, so much good backline access. And the Shen is a great defensive tool. The Lulu's a great defensive tool. The Ornn can be a great defensive tool. We haven't really seen TLP into the fights with the full team just yet. It's just being perfect execution from UVG, even on their own mistakes, being able to pick it up and say, hey, BBL Drizzy's caught out, but we're going to make an engage out of this. Something's going to happen off of it, and we're going to turn it into a win.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's just so much that's gone on through this game, through this series, Gritty, right? You know, we started game number 1 with a ridiculous comeback. We went through game number 2 with just pure, unadulterated play coming in from the Literal Monkeys, and game number 3 has been a testament to the adaptability of this UVG squad. Oh, Britty.
Oh, Drizzy. Getting caught out again, but again, turning that catch into an engage. It's forcing the Spirit Rush defensively out of ball slap. TLP is the one actually getting caught here as that Nether Grass just to guarantee the kill for the squad. It's another pick, and now the siege can truly begin with that top laner down.
Oh my god, I gotta say, BBL Drizzy getting caught out is the Schrodinger support. You have no idea if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Is the support alive or dead? Is it going to turn into a team fight loss for your team by focusing the support down while they walk in 1v5? Who knows? I don't think anyone does at this point.
I'm not sure UVG themselves know. I think truly BBL Drizzy has become the Hillisang of the Titan Esports Divinity League, and I'm so here for it.
Meanwhile, BBL Drizzy still looking for more opportunities to get some kind of an in. Might not necessarily be the best time for it though, as the team is taking quite a bit of damage on the back foot here, and Dragon is right there for the taking.
Yeah, they're gonna start to turn around these Dragon scores. You see, Swamplight definitely plays some Malzahar. It's definitely a champion in their pool. I don't think we were expecting to see it. I thought that was just like, oh, maybe they roll swapped away from mid and we're a Malzahar one trick back then. But no, Swamplight's just happy to pull these out in these bottom lane situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's early in the season. Sometimes you think to yourself, Well, there's two ways how teams can really go into these competitive seasons. It's, hey, what if we just play things that are strong, and then once we have playoffs clinched, then we can just, coast, figure something out, try something new. Or they say, hey, we just started the season. We don't really know how each other play. We don't really know what works. Why don't we just throw whatever's at the wall and see what sticks, right? And I think UVG is going for option number 2, where they're just saying, hey, you know what? This composition looks kind of crazy, but like, what if it worked though? And it's paying off in dividends.
I mean, I know their coach Tex Race has been pretty outspoken about the goals for the draft plans and exactly what they want to do coming into this series, and it's been great to see these highlights from him. But again, it's just the uniqueness of draft that sometimes is so difficult to play around. Is Aternumi getting aggressive in the side lane. We've seen this one before as well. Caught out alone in the 1v4. That Baron is not spawned yet. 2 minutes out means that that's just free shutdown gold going over to TLP.
Yeah, that's one of those moments where you look at the minimap and you say to yourself, well, what play is available for the enemy team on the map? And right there, the only play that Little Monkeys had was literally killing Aternumi. Right?
Yeah.
That's the only possible form of gold that they could have gone for outside of, I guess, jungle farm. So, just going to be punished for walking up a little bit too far there, and that might turn into the entire tower, maybe another if they push their luck.
Yeah, now that Kale, sorry, I'm way back in game 1. Now that the Camille is gone, a lot of the threat on this Jinx is off because they have that cleanse, they have that QSS, they can get away from the rest of the crowd control. It really is just the Camille unlocking the rest of this UVG composition to be able to get dive down onto Yomi and really pressure them out of fights.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Well, now that Aternumi is back on stage, back on the Rift, we're gonna have to calm down a little bit, see what exactly is in store for us as, Baron's coming up soon. The Soul is coming up soon. And I would be hard-pressed to see if we don't have a crazy team fight right before one of these major objectives.
Yeah, I think the next Baron take may spell the rest of this game and very much the series. Again, we're in game 3 here. It's been a back and forth. Both these teams have traded blow for blow again and again. And Monkeys much cleaner in game 1 and 2 than they were here in game number 3. UVG, I think even themselves, much cleaner in game 3 here than they were in game number 2 as UVG manages to get away from the taunt that time. Singular Red doesn't land it. I get nervous every time I see BBOs.
I know, right?
Because I know somebody's gonna die. I just don't know who it's gonna be.
The fact that no one died there is the most mind-blowing thing in my head.
Truly.
Right? Drizzy getting caught out seems to be one of the most iconic... Please no.
Oh no. Please, not again, not again, not again. He's got the last gun. He's out of there, he's out of there.
Okay. Mega Blast Cone gonna be able to get everyone on out of that fight there. And Swamp Light, with the mouse heart, just gets a great wave shoving on into that mid lane, and this Baron is ripe for the taking here.
Yeah, but check out that bottom lane. Aternumi playing this split push game so well. BBL Drizzy's on a flank here, gonna get that root auto down onto Singular Bread. The target they're looking for an engage on, but I don't know if it's the one they want. They are going to be forced to walk away as the rest of Monkeys start to come up. But again, Aternumi down here in this bottom lane, just happily split pushing away. This inhibitor is just gone. And if some other member of Monkeys doesn't come down, I think TLP is in trouble. I don't think he can actually take this Camille in a 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, Camille Ornn is something that you just cannot deal with here. Singular Bread is the one who's actually going to recall here, and there's no chance at a steal minus a super death rocket.
Whoa, that got a little close. I got scared for a second, but it is going to be, despite going over to Genghis Khan, picking that one up. And again, yeah, that Baron, surprised to see it go uncontested, but it's going to accelerate UVG now to over a 10,000 gold lead. They're going to have this Baron up when they go over to take this Chemtech Soul. And Monkeys, they need to find their own Miracle Engage if they're going to stay alive in this series.
Yeah, I mean, this game has been a testament to how the UVG team knows how to play around their win conditions in some of these crazy compositions, right? Who's prepared to play around this win condition? Actually, everyone, right? You know, that was a big question mark coming into this, where it's like, okay, well, we have to lock down Yomi, right? And UVG, every single one of those members seems to have gotten that memo. Yomi might be 5-1. That's the first death on the Jinx this entire series. And without the Infinity Edge for such a long time, literally only finishing it right now, there's been so much less damage on this Jinx because she had to opt for the QSS, has to opt to play super far back in comparison to some of these earlier games.
Yeah, you don't have the Melio accelerating your range. You no longer have lethal tempo, giving you that extra range for yourself. You have to play just off of that rocket range. And BBL Drizzy's looking for an engage, flashes over the taunt, and here comes the collapse. The 4-man Pop Blossom. Monkeys are gone. It's a double kill for Swamp Light. That's the game. TLP is left alone, saying, "Where the hell did my team go? UVG, take it home."
And not any cleanse in the world is gonna save you from that much damage. Beautiful stuff from the entirety of UVG to bring it through in game number 3. A handcrafted composition at taking down Literal Monkeys, starting with their number 1 carry, Yomi, who did not get a chance to play that game. Look at the Jinx damage, not even close to how much damage that TLP was putting out on Ornn. And that's not to say that TLP wasn't, doing really well. Yomi was consistently putting out some of the most damage in the game on this Jinx before, and this time around, so much lockdown means Yomi just doesn't get to play. They don't have that hyper carry to fall back on, and this composition, this squad works together so well.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about BBL Drizzy like, hey, get caught out less, you gotta be positioning a bit better. But making the team fight winning engage, the game winning engage off of that, flashing over the taunt, getting the access to the back line, the exact trigger pull that the team needed. Again, Schrodinger's catch, are you catching BBL Drizzy or is UVG catching you?
Yeah, who flashes over Shen taunt? But I mean, that's the BBL Drizzy diff, I guess, but either way, right? Team worked out flawlessly. They had their composition crafted to take out this team, just absolutely benefiting from these game 3 series. Game number 1, I feel might have been a little bit shaky. It was the Kayle that really pulls on through. I doubt we're going to be seeing much of that Kayle moving forward. But game number 3, you can see this team really had its chance to find a way how to work things out, making use of everything possibly strong on this patch. And if this is week 2 of the league, I'm so excited to see how things go for the rest of the series.
Yeah,
season.
We are in for a hell of a season if we've got teams like UVG here in the Titan Esports Divinity League. But I think that's going to be it from us tonight. No interviews with the teams today, but an incredible showing from both teams here. I think both teams showed their strengths, showed their weaknesses importantly, but in the end, it's UVG coming out on top 2-1 over Literal Monkeys. Thank you all so much for joining us. I've been What's Your Gritty. That's been Auntie, not Auntie. We've got Chris Sunga on production in the back, and Loki Bear being our observer, making sure everything runs as smoothly as always. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week for more Divinity action. Take care.